61. Secret Manual. Combined with Taoist companion system, Qing carried little Duguyan back to his unusually styled dwelling. Bo liked to joke and call it the grave mound house. By now everyone else was up and the courtyard was waking. He set Duguyan down and patted her small head. Go play with Xiao Wu. Master will make a good medicinal meal for you two. The girl nodded obediently and scampered off in search of her new friend. Qing went into the kitchen and got to work. Rare herbs passed through his hands like common ingredients, deftly combined with spirit beast meat and spirit rice to produce dishes that were both delicious and full of energy. A rich aroma soon filled the air. When he carried the finished meal back to the courtyard, the scene that met him left him unsure whether to laugh or cry. The two little girls, Duguyan and Xiao Wu, looked like two fluffed-up kittens, each tugging at the other's braids. Were they braids or rabbit ears? Their faces puffed with indignation, neither willing to let go. "Master is mine. I was the first to take him as master," Duguyan declared, her emerald eyes blazing with childish resolve. "He's not your master alone. He's my daddy, Xiao Wu's new daddy." Xiao Wu shot back, her pink face flushed with excitement. Their dispute over who Qing belonged to quickly escalated from words to a tug of war, though neither had much strength. Qing set down the tray, stepped in, and separated them before there were any real tears. "All right, stop it." He held one in each arm, half exasperated, half amused. "What's going on? Weren't you fine a moment ago? Why the sudden fight?" The two glared at one another and then poured out their grievances in a jumble. After listening, Qing realized the root. Each was convinced she was the most important child in his heart, and neither would concede. He couldn't help being amused, and a warm swell of affection filled him. He knelt, pulled them both into his arms, and soothed them. "Silly girls, what are you fighting about? Xiao Wu is a Ru's daughter, so she's my daughter. Yan Yan is my first disciple, almost like a daughter. Both of you are incredibly important to me, precious treasures. No one ranks above the other. Understand?" He ruffled their hair. "Enough. No more arguing. Be good and eat breakfast so you'll grow strong." Between his coaxing and the lure of a good meal, the two grudgingly made peace, each giving the other one last humph before taking their seats and devouring the medicinal food. The little storm passed. What pleased Qing most was that after the clash, Duguyan and Xiao Wu drew closer. They still bickered occasionally, but more often they played together, shared snacks, and teamed up for harmless pranks. True playmates. Days slipped by in quiet warmth. With Father Duan and Father Z managing daily affairs, the yin-yang sect required little of Qing's attention. He poured most of his energy into cultivating the Ling Xin and Ling Mao sisters, watching them advance rapidly under his guidance. He also spent plenty of time with Xiao Wu and Duguyan, enjoying an early taste of the joys and headaches of raising daughters. This calm routine soothed the tension left by transmigration and the system, making his days peaceful. He wasn't idle, though. Every day he set aside fixed hours to study abstruse spirit-soul techniques. The work was hard but rewarding. By tackling core problems of soul energy transformation and condensation and the fusion of different energy attributes, he raised his control of his power to a new level. He learned to extract a wisp of his soul, reinforce it with refined mental force, and condense outside his body a faint soul shadow identical to himself. At first, the shadow was hazy, but as he kept infusing it with mental force to fill and stabilize it, it grew steadily more solid and could perform simple actions like walking or waving. Though it had no offensive power, couldn't stray far, and demanded a steady drain of mental force, it was a tremendous breakthrough. It's almost like a rudimentary soul incarnation, he thought. Even better, if the shadow were destroyed, he would only lose that bit of mental force and soul energy. With time, he could recover without irreversible harm. This exquisite control over soul and mental force gave him more options for future battles and cultivation. With Aru's return, every day also held the bliss of yin-yang harmonization. Their dual cultivation was indispensable. The yin-yang power supplied by their union had boosted the age of his fifth spirit ring from 50,000 years to 80,000 years. Such a jump was astonishing. One day, while listening to Father Z's report on sect affairs, Qing casually asked, "Father-in-law, How is your cultivation with the dual cultivation secret codex going? Father Z's old face flushed and his gaze darted around. After hesitating, he said with some embarrassment, The, the results are excellent. Rui's mother had been stuck for years, but after practicing she broke through 2 ranks and is now close to Spirit Elder. I also feel my spirit power has refined, about a 1% increase. At his rank, every sliver of progress was hard-won. 1% was a joy. Yu Qing nodded. Good. As long as it works, keep cultivating. Don't worry that rapid growth will destabilize your foundation. He then taught an auxiliary technique he developed to compress and purify spirit power, further solidifying the base. Father Z studied it with bright eyes and bowed his head in thanks. Many thanks, son-in-law. With this aid, I have no worries. That night, the moon shone bright and the stars were few. Yu Qing's door opened quietly and a lithe figure slipped in, a Ru. Seeing him already sitting on the bed and smiling, her lovely face flushed with the familiar mix of awkwardness and shyness. Every time they practiced yin-yang harmonization, a Ru had to sneak over after Xiao Wu was sound asleep. The illicit thrill was both anticipated and mortifying. Is Xiao Wu asleep? Yu Qing reached for her and drew her naturally into his arms, savoring her softness. She buried her face against his chest and gave a tiny nod. Yu Qing kissed her smooth forehead, eyes bright. Tonight, let's try something special. Special? She lifted her pink eyes, curious. Instead of answering him with words, Yu Qing rested his forehead against hers. The next instant, a gentle stream of information, the complete dual cultivation secret codex, poured into her mind. Startled by the flood of knowledge, Aru absorbed it quickly. The more she understood, the redder her cheeks, ears, and neck became. This is the dual cultivation method? Her voice trembled. She glanced up, too shy to meet his eyes. What is this? Why are there so many strange positions? Her heart raced. Some of the descriptions were wilder than anything she'd imagined. A Qing, can we not use those parts? She stammered, barely audible. Yu Qing was delighted by her adorable mortification, but kept a straight face and shook his head solemnly. No can do. This is an orthodox ancient codex. Every posture links to spirit power flow and mental resonance. You can't change it. His tone softened. Do you remember the circulation route? Her cheeks crimson. She bit her lip and gave the tiniest nod. At her titled Douluo level, memorizing complex pathways was easy, even if performing the matching movements was embarrassingly intimate. Then, let's begin. Yu Qing smiled, extinguished the lights with a flick of spirit power, and the room blossomed into spring in the dark. Sometime later, an unprecedented session of deep dual cultivation ended. Yu Qing sensed the changes within him and was amazed. Combining the Tao companion system with the dual cultivation codex was extraordinary. Spirit power efficiency had risen by roughly 1,000th, and the crucial yin-yang power yield had nearly doubled. He opened his eyes and looked at Aru, still dazed and flushed in his arms. How do you feel? Slowly her moist pink eyes opened, shyness mingled with delight. Wonderful. Much stronger than before. I feel my spirit power is on the edge. One more session, and I should break through to rank 96. A gleam flashed in Yu Qing's eyes, and a wicked smile curved his lips. In that case, your husband will help his wife ascend tonight. He leaned over her again. More than an hour later, Yu Qing carefully straightened Aru's slightly disheveled clothes and saw her to the door. After closing it, he stretched, then sat cross-legged on the bed to refine the yin-yang power within him. The night deepened, and in the quiet room, a wondrous black and white scene unfolded. Dual core choice and Dugubo's choice. The next morning at breakfast, Aru sat quietly to one side, her delicate face alight with joy she could not hide. The spirit power fluctuations around her were now perfectly rounded and condensed. She had clearly stabilized at rank 96. The 2 intense sessions of deep dual cultivation from last night had not only shattered her bottleneck in a single blow, but under the soul power compression method, had forged a foundation so firm it could not be shaken. Yet whenever her gaze brushed Yu Qing, her mind replayed last night's blush-inducing, unbelievably effective cultivation scenes. She would lower her head, push the food around her bowl, and a faint crimson would creep up the tips of her ears. Yu Qing watched every reaction with equal parts amusement and tenderness. Aru is at rank 96 now, he thought. It's time to pass on the dual soul core condensation method and the Jade Rabbit scripture. Dual soul cores will greatly deepen her reserves and endurance, and the Jade Rabbit scripture will help her spirit evolve further. His eyes drifted toward the window, as if he could see the old man busy in the poison garden. And old man Dugu, Yu Qing frowned. He spends every day soaked in those deadly toxins. Won't the suppressed backlash of his jade phosphor serpent emperor martial soul erupt again? Besides, as vice sect master of the yin-yang sect, his rank 91 spirit power is no longer enough. Only by fully resolving the serpent emperor's toxin rebound can Dugubo cultivate without restraint and become a true pillar of the sect. But which solution to choose would require Dugubo's own consent? Some methods only treat symptoms, others demand a steep price, perhaps even abandoning the poison arts he treasures. After breakfast, Yu Qing checked on the sisters Ling Xin and Ling Mao as usual, offered a few pointers, then took the two little tails following him, Xiao Wu and Dugu Yan, out into the valley to enjoy some leisurely parent-child time. The days passed calmly and routinely. When Yu Qing judged the moment right, he handed the Jade Rabbit scripture to Aro. That night, after a deep cultivation session and the warmth that followed, Yu Qing held her and asked softly, Aru, about dual soul cores, there are two main paths. One is the yin-yang complementary dual soul cores, immensely powerful, a qualitative leap in combat capability, but the condensation process is perilous, 9 chances of death to 1 of life. The other is the more stable resonant homologous dual soul cores. The boost isn't as dramatic, but it's reliable. Which do you choose? Aru barely hesitated. Lifting her violet eyes, she looked at Yu Qing steadily. I choose the yin-yang complementary dual soul cores. Surprise crossed Yu Qing's face. You know full well the agony I went through condensing those, torment no ordinary person can endure. You really want this path? I do. Her voice never wavered. She hugged him tightly and pressed her cheek to his chest. Only by becoming stronger can I stand by your side and share your burdens, instead of always being protected by you. No matter how dangerous, I'll try. Yu Qing felt gratitude and pride flood him. He asked no more and nodded gravely. Very well. Since you've decided, I'll support you with everything I have. He pressed his forehead to hers and transmitted every scrap of experience, insight, detail, and crucial point he'd learned while condensing yin-yang complementary dual soul cores. Nothing held back. The torrent of knowledge that poured into her mind would drive any spirit master mad with desire. Aru soaked in each perilous, profound step. Her gratitude and love for Yu Qing nearly overflowed. She gave him a sweet kiss and murmured, Husband, you're wonderful. Yu Qing returned her embrace and once more led her into dual cultivation, supporting her decision in the most tangible way. The next morning, Aru, walking a little awkwardly, found Fox Consort meditating in her room. Fox Consort glanced up and grinned at Aru's unsteady gait. Oh, back to flaunt your battle record. Judging by how you walk, was last night's cultivation a bit too intense? Aru's cheeks flushed, but instead of shying away, she sat down beside her friend and asked seriously, Fox Consort, about our bet, when will you pay up? Fox Consort's face went scarlet. She looked away, forcing calm. I'm not ready yet. Just give me a little more time. Aru knew her proud, contrary friend too well. With a thought, she circulated spirit power and 9 spirit rings rose from her feet. Purple, 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 black, 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 red, red. When the 7th spirit ring appeared, Fox Consort froze. The ring's color was so deep it was almost jet black. The energy it radiated was vast, clearly approaching the terrifying level of 90,000 years. Aru pointed to the near-black 7th ring and said calmly, See? Dual cultivation's effects are far better than you imagine. This isn't just about love. It's a shortcut to greater power. My husband truly is amazing. Staring at that ring and feeling Aru's aura, stronger even than she had been at her peak, Fox Consort's last hesitation crumbled. Her refusal of human men and her fear of the unknown seemed trivial before such absolute strength. She bit her lower lip and finally met Aru's eyes. Fine. I, Fox Consort, will honor the bet. In three days I'll go to Yu Qing and carry out the dual cultivation you spoke of. Triumph flashed in Aru's eyes. With Fox Consort joining them, not only could Fox Consort help absorb Yu Qing's formidable energy, but she would also greatly strengthen the yin-yang sect's future foundation. Aru already pictured a blissful life of yin-yang harmonization without being left unable to walk every single time. Meanwhile, Yuqing arrived at Dugubo's small courtyard. Dugubo was still crouched among his beloved poisonous herbs, tending them with utter concentration as if they were kin. Yuqing sighed. Old poison, are you really not afraid of dying? Spending every day with these things, aren't you worried the rebound from the Jade Phosphor Serpent Emperor's toxins will erupt ahead of time? Dugubo didn't even look up, sounding perfectly shameless. Afraid of what? With you, Madman Yi, around, if the sky falls, you'll hold it up. This old man has nothing to fear. Stop fussing over your treasures, Yuqing said, his tone unusually serious. I've come for something important. Only then did Dugubo set down his tools, dust the soil from his hands, and follow Yuqing inside. What is it? Why so solemn? Dugubo asked, puzzled. Yuqing looked straight into his eyes and said plainly, Do you want to solve the Jade Phosphor Serpent Emperor Martial Soul's toxin rebound once and for all? Dugubo's green pupils constricted, his breathing quickened. I want to. Of course I want to. This old man thinks of nothing else day and night. You helped me suppress it before, but I know that was only temporary, 2 years at most before the rebound returns, fiercer each time. For the first time in a while, a wariness crept into his voice. He looked at Yuqing with burning hope. What? You found a real cure? Yuqing nodded, expression grave. There are several methods, but each has drawbacks, and some are dangerous. Dugubo pressed him, desperate. Tell me, what are they? As long as I can be rid of this cursed rebound, I'll accept any price. Yuqing considered, then began. The first, find a spirit bone at least 10,000 years old, of pure attribute, and free from special taints. Channel the accumulated toxins in your body into that bone bit by bit. Dugubo's eyes lit up. That sounds doable. Yuqing cooled his hope. Let me finish. It sounds workable, but the aftermath is endless trouble. First, the spirit bone will be ruined. No spirit ability, no attribute boost, just a poison sac. Second, and crucially, it only relocates the poison. It doesn't destroy it. When the bone reaches its limit or you produce stronger toxins, the rebound will erupt far more violently and uncontrollably, certain death. The joy drained from Dugubo's face. He frowned tightly. Putting out thirst with poison. What else? The second method, Yuqing continued, is for me to use the power of life to purify the toxins, forcing your poison level to stay just below the danger threshold. That sounds promising, Dugubo said. But the cost, Yuqing warned, is that your spirit power cultivation will slow to a crawl, maybe stall for good. Your spirit origin and the poison are linked. Suppressing the toxin means suppressing your spirit's growth. Dugubo fell silent. For a spirit master, especially a former peak-level titled Douluo, being unable to advance, perhaps even regressing, was unbearable. He shook his head slowly. Yuqing offered a third option. Abandon the poison arts entirely. Give up your Jade Phosphor Serpent Emperor cultivation and start a new technique. At your age and foundation, you could progress quickly, but whether you could ever return to title Douluo is uncertain. No. Dugubo rejected it outright. To give up the Jade Phosphor Serpent Emperor that had been with him all his life, the poison arts that made his name, was worse than death. It seems only the first method is left, he sighed, bleak and resigned. At least it would buy time. Maybe a better answer would appear. Maybe a few more days with Yan Yan. Yuqing shook his head. Don't decide yet. I have 2 last resort options, though one carries a huge cost and the other is still theoretical. Dugubo seized the lifeline. Whatever the cost, speak. The fourth method, Yuqing said, glancing toward the medicine garden, is to swallow the only earth dragon golden gourd in the ice and fire yin-yang well. It can rouse Dragon Clan bloodline and very likely guide your Jade Phosphor Serpent Emperor to evolve to a higher level, turning the fatal rebound into absolute control and solving the problem at its root. Earth Dragon Golden Gourd? Dugubo knew the treasure and wild joy burst into his eyes. That's tailor-made for me. Wonderful. But Yuqing's next words froze him. There's only one. If you take it, Yan Yan will have to choose among the first 3 methods, and spirit evolution isn't guaranteed. The elation on Dugubo's face vanished. He shook his head repeatedly. No, absolutely not. Yan Yan's future is worth more than my life. He could not build his survival on his granddaughter's sacrifice. What's the last method? Yu Qing spoke the final option quietly. The poison pill method. It's a concept I've deduced. Compress and refine every toxin inside you, including the poison bound to your spirit origin, into a single poison pill inside your body. Make that pill the core and command all poisons at will. The rebound would be prevented. He paused, his voice heavy. But for now, it's only theory. How to compress and refine. How to control the terrifying energy during condensation. How to keep balance afterward. Those are unknown and extremely risky. To know if it works, I'd need to experiment on you. Experiment? Douluo tasted the word. The promise of success meant freedom. The risk of failure could mean death even sooner than the rebound. After a long silence, he clenched his teeth and resolve flashed in his eyes. I've lived long enough. Rather than drag on or ruin Yanyan's future, I'll gamble. I choose your poison pill method. If it proves impossible, I'll fall back to the first method and buy a few more years with Yanyan. Yu Qing nodded solemnly. Good. Since you trust me, I'll give everything. Whatever happens, I'll treat Yanyan as my own and cultivate her with all I have. I'll find a perfect cure for her spirit's rebound. Douluo said nothing more, only nodded hard. Everything he needed to convey was in that gesture. Yu Qing rose to leave. At the door, he stopped without turning back. Until I perfect the poison pill method and cure your rebound, stay away from those poisonous flowers and herbs. Their toxicity will worsen the accumulation in you, making future condensation harder and far riskier. Douluo's face puckered like a bitter gourd. Then, can I at least fertilize and weed them? Watching them run wild makes me itch. Yu Qing turned back and gave him a meaningful smile. Old man Douluo, if you think your life too long, treat my advice as wind. When the poison erupts, it won't be me writhing in agony. Poor little Yanyan, so young, losing her only kin, alone and helpless. How tragic. He left without waiting for Douluo's conflicted expression, laughing as he strode out and vanished beyond the courtyard gate. Douluo stayed behind, staring at his lovingly cultivated poisonous herbs, then at the image of his granddaughter's sweet face, caught in the fiercest tug-of-war he had ever known. 63. Fox's heart settled. Since that deep conversation with Yu Qing, Douluo had restrained himself a great deal. He no longer spent every day tinkering in his poisonous herb garden with those intimidating treasures. But suddenly leaving the research he'd loved his whole life left him a little dazed, often staring blankly toward the empty medicinal garden with a look of profound loss. Seeing this, Yu Qing passed the heavy responsibility of supervising Douluo to little Douluyan. The little girl was delighted to carry out her master's orders, acting like a tiny housekeeper, following her grandfather everywhere, dragging him along to play with Xiao Wu or wandering around the valley. An amusing scene became common in the Ice and Fire Yin-Yang Well, a notorious poison Douluo, behaving like an old child, being led by the nose by his own granddaughter, helpless yet content as he mingled with real children, listening to their chatter and watching their games. Though awkward at first, Douluo gradually learned to savor family life, and the anxiety that had gnawed at him eased. Yu Qing, meanwhile, locked himself in his study, pouring his heart and soul into deducing and perfecting the poison pill method. He flipped through pill-forming techniques scavenged from the system mall, combined them with his understanding of energy control and medicinal theory, and continuously constructed, simulated, and corrected every step of refining the poison pill. He knew this involved Douluo's life. There could be no mistakes. The days passed quietly in this fragile peace. 3 nights later, the peace was broken. As usual, Yu Qing finished his research and pushed open his door. The soul-guided lamp cast a soft glow. He stopped dead in the doorway, disbelief written across his face. A slender figure sat on the edge of his bed. It was not Aru. It was Fox Consort, dressed in a pale purple gown, no veil, her naturally enchanting face fully revealed. She had clearly dressed carefully. Her silver hair fell like a waterfall over her shoulders. Her narrow fox eyes shimmered with light, edged with a trace of nervousness and shyness. Her fair skin glowed in the lamp's light. She sat quietly, and yet seemed to embody all the world's allure, filling the room with an intimate, heady atmosphere. Yu Qing froze for a long moment, then recovered enough to speak. "Miss Fox Consort?" His voice was uncertain. Why are you here?" The delicate body of the fox seemed to tremble. she lifted those soul-captivating eyes to him, her look complicated, equal parts resolve and maidenly timidity. She drew a deep breath, as if summoning courage, and said in a slight, trembling voice, I'm here to fulfill the bet with Aru. The bet? Yu Qing's mind jumped back to that night when Aru and Fox Consort had joked about body and heart. He chuckled and shook his head. Miss Fox Consort, that was Aru's momentary jest. You can't sacrifice yourself over a joke. It's not worth it. Yu Qing expected her to take that as permission to leave. Instead, she didn't. Something stubborn seemed to awaken in her. She looked up, silver teeth biting her lower lip, fox eyes shining with determined light. She met his gaze and said clearly, word by word, I'm not doing this just for the bet. I want to harmonize with you. Yu Qing almost choked on his own breath. He stared at her, stunned. Where did you learn about harmonization? He asked incredulously. He didn't remember telling her. The fox's face grew even more shy at his gaze. She lowered her head and answered in a voice like the whisper of a mosquito. It was Aru, she told me. She said it's very good. You become strong very quickly. Yu Qing facepalmed inwardly. Aru, always playing matchmaker, even giving lessons on such private matters. He took a steadying breath and approached Fox Consort, his expression turning solemn. His gaze burned as he spoke. Fox Consort, think carefully. Yin-yang harmonization is no child's play. Once it begins, we will no longer be simple friends or fellow disciples. From then on, you can only be my woman. Your body and soul will be bound to me. Are you truly willing? Under that intense scrutiny, Fox Consort's heart pounded so hard it felt like it would burst. Images flashed through her head. Aru's rapid cultivation, her happy, satisfied expression, her own fragile strength since transforming, the uncertainty of what the future might hold. Then, as if she had burned her bridges, she looked up and answered with a calm, resolute solemnity. As long as it's truly as Aru said, and it will make me strong quickly so I can protect myself and my clan, I, Fox Consort, am willing to accompany you with this body. I will not leave in this lifetime. Her voice no longer trembled. It carried the weight of a vow. Seeing that unshakable resolve, Yu Qing stopped equivocating. With such a beautiful woman actively offering herself, and with such a firm will, refusal would be hypocritical. He flicked his finger and tapped the air. A mysterious contract scroll, emitting a soft golden light and covered in profound runes, appeared and floated before Fox Consort. It radiated a sacred, solemn, binding aura. This is a holy contract, Yu Qing said softly and seriously. Only by signing this, linking our hearts, merging spirit and flesh, can we perform the deepest level of dual cultivation and obtain the greatest benefit. Once signed, our fates will be bound. We will share fortune and misfortune. Are you willing to sign? The fox looked at the glowing contract and felt the binding weight of law behind it. There would be no turning back. Still, she did not hesitate. She nodded firmly. I am willing. She extended a slender jade-like finger and circulated her spirit power to force out a drop of crimson essence blood. With a flick, it merged into the golden contract. The scroll flared with golden light, runes flowing, and an invisible bond formed deep within their souls. Ding, congratulations to the host for successfully contracting a 4-star Dao Companion, Fox Consort. Reward, Dao Companion Treasure Checks 1, Yin-Yang Points, Companion Panel updated. Age, A18, Psychological Age, Actual Age unknown. Spirit, Three-Eyed Demon Fox. Soul Power Rank, Rank 13th Master. Spirit Ring Configuration, Yellow, 420 years. Beauty, 97. Naturally enchanting, capable of toppling nations. Innate Soul Power, Rank 10, Foundation of a Transformed Spirit Beast. Comprehensive Star Rating, 60. Favorable Impression, willing to entrust her life. 4 stars? Yu Qing read the system prompt, a little surprised. As a 100,000-year spirit beast, Fox Consort might have been expected to be 5 stars, but the system seemed to weigh potential and current strength. She'd just transformed and was still weak. He dismissed the prompt from his mind. Star ratings were only reference points. Future progress would depend on opportunity and effort. He folded the golden contract away, stepped forward, and gently drew the slightly dazed, flushed fox into his arms. Her delicate body stiffened, then trembled. Her breathing quickened. Despite the centuries she'd lived, in matters of the heart and desire she was pure. a maiden fox newly awakened. "Relax," Qing murmured, stroking her back. His voice was soft and steady. Yin-yang harmonization emphasizes the union of spirit and desire, the merging of body and soul to maximize effect. Feeling the warmth of his hand and the calm in his words, Fox Consort's tension eased. She looked up at his face and took a deep breath as if steel had entered her lungs. Under Qing's stunned gaze, a flash of cunning and determination crossed hers. In a sudden, decisive motion, she flipped over and pinned him to the bed. Qing. Before he could react, she acted on the awkward but bold theory Aru had fed her, and on an instinct of her own. Qing stopped thinking and surrendered to the unprecedentedly wonderful sensation this peerless fox brought. That flawless body, that face flushed with color, the clumsy yet eager initiative, all made the night unforgettable. Afterward, they went through 2 sessions of yin-yang conjunction and deep cultivation. Because of the harmonization and their connection, Fox Consort experienced double pleasure of body and spirit. Her favorability toward Qing rose sharply. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing 1 yin-yang conjunction. Spirit power and mental force merged. Soul sublimation achieved. Plus 500 yin-yang points, a small amount of spirit power, a small amount of yin-yang power. Ding! Fox Consort's favorability plus 20. Current favorability, 80. Deeply in love, body and soul fully committed. As dawn broke, Qing watched Fox Consort sleeping exhausted in his arms. Tear marks stained the corners of her eyes, but a smile lingered on her lips. He chuckled, shook his head fondly, and lightly tapped her upturned nose. "Let's see if you'll dare to provoke me like that again," he teased. Fox Consort couldn't open her eyes. She burrowed closer and mumbled in a sleepy, seductive voice. "No, I don't dare. Husband, spare Foxer." Qing smiled and carefully tucked her in. After that night, Fox Consort's soul power shot up like a rocket, leaping from rank 13 to the rank 20 bottleneck. The speed of improvement was astonishing. Is this the terrifying effect of yin-yang conjunction with a high-level spirit master? Qing transmitted a soul power compression method into her through their mental bond and whispered in her ear, "The spirit power you gained from yin-yang conjunction is superficial for now. You must compress and refine it to solidify your foundation. With this method, you won't have to worry about instability." Fox Consort stirred in her sleep and gave a soft before falling deeply asleep again. She was utterly exhausted. When Qing stepped out and closed his door, he nearly bumped into a pink figure standing there. It was Aru, watching him with a half-smile that mixed teasing and mystery. She appraised him from head to toe, then leaned in and whispered in his ear, "How was it? Fox Consort, how did she taste? Was it a different flavor?" "Very comfortable, right?" Qing's face flushed. He awkwardly rubbed his nose, coughed, and then confessed, "Indeed, very good." He couldn't deny Fox Consort's rare, almost prodigious charm. Aru showed no jealousy. Instead, she looked relieved, a satisfied smile lighting her features. She hummed a little tune and left in high spirits, leaving Qing watching her retreating figure with mixed feelings, unable to guess the truths hidden in his wife's heart. Fox Consort slept until the next evening before waking. She practiced the soul power compression method as instructed, repeatedly tempering and refining the spirit power that had surged through her. Her rank stabilized at rank 20. She only needed to condense a spirit ring to fully become a spirit grandmaster. Qing also ordered that she temporarily use all refined yin-yang power to advance her soul cultivation, raising her strength quickly so she could protect herself. 6 nights later, Qing entered Aru's room with a solemn expression. "Aru," he said, "after tonight's yin-yang conjunction, do not refine or absorb the yin-yang power you generate. Keep your spirit power at its fullest and most active state." A brilliant light flared in Aru's pink eyes as she understood his plan. Her voice trembled with excitement and nerves. "Husband, you mean?" Qing nodded, his gaze full of encouragement and trust. Tomorrow, I will be your protector. I will help you condense the yin-yang complementary dual soul cores in the center of the ice and fire yin-yang well. Aru drew a deep breath and nodded, her eyes shining with determination and anticipation. Chapter 64, The Dual Soul Core Success and the Surprise Night. Early the next morning, an unusual tension and expectant hush settled over the ice and fire yin-yang well. Yu Qing carefully reminded Duan Xin and Zi Rui to focus on their pregnancies, then singled out Dugu Bo with a solemn request. Old Poison, today I must help Aru condense her soul core. This is critical. There can be no mistakes. Please look after Shiner, Rui, and the children. Dugu Bo saw how serious Yu Qing was and dropped his usual casual air. A sharp gleam flashed in his green eyes as he slapped his chest. Rest easy. With this old man on guard, no one and nothing will be able to disturb you. Just concentrate on the breakthrough. After arranging the watchers, Yu Qing took Aru to the edge of the spring. The well radiated fierce, clashing energies of ice and fire. Moving toward its center, the forces grew wilder, boiling, magma-red water on one side and a deep, dead blue chill on the other, as if capable of freezing the soul itself. They were clearly divided, yet coexisted in a spectacle that made even Aru, usually bright-eyed and curious, stare in awe. "Are you ready?" Yu Qing asked, taking her hand. Aru drew a steadying breath, determination shining in her pink eyes. Yes. Without another word, Yu Qing wrapped his arm around her waist and burned spirit power to form a purple-gold shield around them. Then he dove straight into the well. Even with his protection, the spring's extremes would have severely harmed an ordinary titled Douluo. Aru felt both extremes slam into her at once, the cold threatening to freeze her blood and spirit, the heat searing like fire through her organs. Pain forced a muffled cry from her lips and made her body tremble. Yu Qing moved swiftly to the cultivation platform at the well's depths, where the energy was even purer and more violent. "Sit cross-legged and calm your mind," his voice tolled into her consciousness like a bell, steadying and clear. Enduring the tearing pain, Aru obeyed. In the current Douluo Continent, true soul cores were unheard of. Most spirit masters advanced slowly. What Yu Qing proposed was unprecedented here, a deliberate method to condense a soul core from the extreme energies of the well. Step 1. Draw the extreme heat into your dantian. Use fire as the foundation, and condense a fire-attributed soul core. Under Yu Qing's precise guidance and shielded by him, Aru began to carefully absorb the spring's concentrated heat. Following Yu Qing's secret method, she compressed and refined her spirit power and fire attribute in her dantian's qi. The process demanded microscopic control. One slip could mean self-immolation. As a 100,000-year spirit beast in human form who had matured long ago, her mental fortitude and will were formidable. With Yu Qing repairing her meridians and protecting her, she endured the burning and tamed the violent fire. After 7 days of agonizing work, a crimson, scorching soul core slowly rotating in her dantian finally condensed. The instant it formed, Aru's rank 96 spirit power solidified and improved noticeably. "Very good," Yu Qing approved. Step 2. Split off part of your origin spirit to open a second dantian. At the Shanzhong point of the middle dantian, draw in the extreme cold and condense an ice-attributed soul core. This second step was far more dangerous. This was not the dual cores within a single dantian that some had used to balance yin and yang. It was closer to the path of the later god of emotion, forming two soul cores of opposite attributes in different locations so they could resonate. Opening a second dantian alone was excruciating. Condensing an ice-attributed soul core that opposed her primary fire essence multiplied the agony and risk 100-fold. Aru's face drained of color. She shook violently and bled from the corner of her mouth. The cold and heat clashed inside her like twin hurricanes tearing at her from within. Yu Qing's heart ached at her suffering, but he could not bear it for her. All he could do was continuously channel pure life force into her to mend meridians and ease the torment. "Hold on, Aru. Keep your mind steady. Guide them. Let them find balance." His voice was the anchor that kept her centered in the storm. She clenched her teeth and held fast. If she could succeed, she would be able to truly protect Yu Qing, and that thought kept her going. Days blurred. Sometimes frost crept over her skin. Other times she looked branded and red. Her aura swung wildly, making Yu Qing fear the worst. Finally, on the 15th day at noon, the furious clash of forces within her suddenly slowed. As if striking a hidden pivot, the ice and fire began to circulate in a profoundly complementary path. At both her dantian and the newly opened middle dantian, twin cores gleamed, one red as the sun, one blue as the moon, shining and reflecting each other. A powerful resonance drew them together, and they rotated in tandem. The dual soul cores were complete. Spirit power poured into the two cores like rivers rushing to the sea, compressed and purified, then fed back through her body. Her spirit recovered at an astonishing rate. Ice and fire achieved an internal harmony that did more than add their strengths. It multiplied them. Aro felt at least 3 times stronger than before. She was sure she could slay that blood demon alone if it ever returned. When she opened her eyes, they flashed with a brilliance as if the sun and moon spun within them. Overcome with joy, she flung herself into Yu Qing's arms and sobbed in happiness. "Qing! I did it! I did it! It's all because of you!" Yu Qing hugged her tightly, pride swelling in his chest. "It was your will that endured that inhuman pain. You were amazing, Aru." She smiled through her tears, confident and radiant. "From now on, I won't be a burden. If we meet those evil-titled Douluo again, I can take them." As they left the well, Dugubo, Duanshin's father, and Zirui's father, who had been waiting and monitoring, rushed over, having sensed the movement. When Dugubo set eyes on Aro, his pupils constricted, and he actually gasped. Her aura was restrained, yet unfathomably deep. A faint field of entwined ice and fire radiated from her. The pressure she gave off now was stronger than when Yu Qing intentionally held back. Dugubo realized with a jolt that he probably wouldn't last 3 rounds against her now. "Kong, congratulations, Miss Aro, successfully condensing dual soul cores. Your strength has leaped forward." Dugubo swallowed his astonishment and stepped forward to offer heartfelt praise. Aro glowed with pride. "Thank you, Senior Dugu. It's all thanks to Qing." Dugubo leaned close to Yu Qing and nudged him with an elbow, his green eyes eager. "Madman Ye, Aru has dual soul cores. What about that poison pill method of mine? When can you refine it? Watching you all leap ahead is making my heart itch." Yu Qing smiled and reassured him. "Don't worry, old poison. The theory is mostly complete. Once I polish a few details, I'll do a preliminary trial on you. It won't be long." Satisfied, Dugubo relaxed, eyes bright with anticipation. That evening, to celebrate Aru's success, Yu Qing prepared a grand feast. Spirit beast delicacies, essences, rare fruits, and fine wines filled the long table. Laughter and clinking cups warmed the air. Xiao Wu sat proudly, glancing now and then at Duguyan as if saying, "See, my mom's amazing." Duguyan, on the other hand, pouted a little. Her own grandfather, still fretting over spirit backlash, made her feel the gap between families. But she quickly remembered that Yu Qing was her teacher and Aru her mistress. Happy with that thought, she grabbed a huge chicken leg and ate with relish, grease smearing her mouth to Xiao Wu's bewilderment. The banquet lasted late. Yu Qing escorted Duanshin and Zirui back to their rooms, where both women, despite being exhausted, wore traces of disappointment. "What's wrong? Aren't you feeling well?" Yu Qing asked. Duanshin leaned against him, voice small. "Husband, Sister Aro advanced so fast, and now she's a super Douluo with dual soul cores, but we're still stuck at Spirit Emperor level. We're pregnant and making such slow progress. We feel useless." Zirui sighed, chastened. "We wanted to be useful, but instead we're holding you back. Now we're pregnant. We can't help with the training." Yu Qing immediately understood their worries. He drew them into his arms and soothed them. "You two, don't be silly. Your most important job right now is to safely bring our babies into the world. That's the greatest contribution you can make." He stroked their bellies and promised confidently, "As for cultivation, don't worry. After the births and your recoveries, I have a method that will help you catch up quickly. I've refined the dual cultivation secret technique. It's even more effective than before. I guarantee you'll recover the gap." Duanshin's eyes lit up. "Really? You won't lie to us?" "Of course not," Yu Qing said. Zirui smiled, a playful, seductive glint in her eyes. "Then, when the time comes, husband will have to give it his all." Faced with his 2 wives' expectant and teasing looks, Yu Qing could only brace himself and promise with a laugh. Secretly, though, he shuddered. After Shiner and Rui give birth, he'd have to keep up with Aru, the fox consort, Duanshin, and Zirui, 4 wives with different styles and appetites. Could his body really handle giving it his all? He stayed until they were soothed and sleepy, tucked them in, and left their lamp burning. But when he opened the door to his main room, the sight froze him in the doorway. On the bed, Aru grinned broadly and had the struggling, flustered fox consort clutched in her arms. The fox consort's fox-like eyes shot sparks of fury and embarrassment. "Aru, let me go! Has your brain gone bad? This is shameless. I won't do it." Aru wasn't embarrassed at all. Instead, she called brightly, "Husband, you're back, just in time." Qing stepped in, utterly bewildered. "Aru, what is going on?" Aru explained matter-of-factly. "Fox Consort and I discussed it. From now on, the two of us will harmonize first, then include Fox Consort during the yin-yang conjunction. It's efficient, saves time, and accomplishes more at once. Isn't it brilliant?" The Fox Consort was about to lose her mind. "Who discussed it with you? You dragged me here by force. You hooligan rabbit. Let me go. I won't. Do it with you both together." Qing just stood there, speechless. Aru gave no time for protest. She hauled Qing to the bedside, and with a sweet but mischievous smile at the struggling fox consort and the dazed Qing, announced, "Come on, let's not waste time. Tonight's dual cultivation begins now." That night, it was clear, would be long and wild. Chapter 65, Condensing the Poison Pill. Sunlight filtered through the window and fell across Qing's face. He opened his eyes slowly, consciousness emerging from sleep. Turning his head, he saw the fox consort still asleep beside him, long silver hair fanned across the pillow, her exquisite features showing traces of exhaustion, but also a contented serenity. Her lashes fluttered as if she were dreaming pleasantly. Qing's smile was rueful as he remembered the madness of the previous night. Aru was, after all, a titled Douluo. Her physical resilience and recovery were far beyond ordinary people. After several rounds of harmonization, she had still yielded the room to the fox consort. Although Aru had been breathless when she left, she could bear the discomfort and slip back to her own chamber. The fox consort, whose spirit power was still shallow, had been completely drained and slept soundly on Qing's bed until now. But the yin-yang conjunction they had performed afterward had been astonishingly effective. Qing could clearly feel the fox consort's spirit power surge to rank 29. At this pace, she was likely to break through and become a spirit elder within a month. He did not wake her. Instead, he dressed quietly and left the room. By the time he reached the kitchen, it was nearly noon. With so many people at home and each at different stages, Qing had to tailor the medicinal cuisine for everyone, an intricate and tedious task. Xiao Wu and Du Guyan, one whose transformation had not stabilized and the other not yet at the age for spirit awakening, needed dishes to consolidate their foundations, open meridians, and nurture innate qualities. For the expectant wives, Duanxin and Zirui, the focus was stabilizing their pregnancies, soothing the spirit, harmonizing blood and qi, and replenishing origin qi to nourish both mother and fetus. The Ling sisters were in the foundation building phase. Their meals aimed to stimulate potential, strengthen the body, and accelerate spirit condensation. The newly arrived fox consort urgently needed rapid spirit power growth and physical strengthening after her transformation. Her cuisine was potent but carefully calibrated so as not to damage her foundation. Qing worked like a precise machine, matching ingredients, controlling heat, and balancing medicinal properties. By the time a large table of dishes, each with its own color, aroma, and therapeutic purpose, was laid out, it was lunch. After watching the women and the two little girls enjoy the sprawling brunch, Qing returned to his study. He cleared his mind and plunged his entire soul into the final stages of deducing and perfecting the poison pill method. Days flew by as he focused on the research. He mentally constructed, simulated, and corrected every minute step of condensing a poison pill, calculating countless changes and countermeasures for compressing the vast, complex, toxic energy in Douluo Bo's body. The project was enormous and precise, involving arcane knowledge of energy operation, attribute transformation, and mental force control. The information was too dangerous to record on paper. He stored it in the depths of his sea of consciousness. He was certain that if he forced it into a spirit saint unprepared for such a torrent, their sea of consciousness would burst and render them a vegetable. 10 days later, beneath his study, Qing had carved out an enormous underground chamber. Dozens of soul guidance lamps were embedded in the walls, lighting the room like day. Complex soul guidance runes on the floor and walls isolated energy fluctuations and stabilized the space. Yu Qing stood alone on a warm jade platform in the center, eyes closed, brow furrowing and relaxing as he made his final critical deductions. After a long while, he opened his eyes, scanned the lab he had poured himself into, and rubbed his weary temples. "The theory is nearly perfect," he murmured. "But the actual operation, there are still variables. I hope it works on the first try." He drew a line under his doubt and left the basement. After tidying the study, he walked toward Douluo Bo's courtyard. Douluo Bo wasn't there. Yu Qing's expression turned curious, then amused as he released a sliver of mental force to probe. Nearby, on a small square at the edge of the valley's living area, he picked up a familiar spirit fluctuation with that faint, fishy scent. His figure flashed to the square. The sight made him smile broadly. The poisoned Douluo, whom the continent feared, Douluo Bo, stood in the middle of a circle of 5- and 6-year-olds playing hopscotch. He hopped on one foot, dark green hair messy, face filled with simple joy, scandalously arguing about whether a child had stepped on a line. Yu Qing couldn't help a soft laugh. Douluo Bo snapped his head around, face flaming. He cleared his throat and tried to recover dignity. "Ahem. I'm conducting community outreach, experiencing the lives of the grassroots. Yes, that's it." Yu Qing stepped forward, suppressing his amusement, patted Douluo Bo on the shoulder, and nodded solemnly. "I understand. Vice Sect Master Douluo cares for the people, shares their happiness, truly admirable." Douluo Bo's embarrassment deepened. He brusquely shrugged off the hand. Fine. Laugh if you must, kid. I was bored. What's wrong with playing with the kids a bit?" Yu Qing laughed openly, then turned serious. "Enough jokes. Old poison, come with me." Douluo Bo's eyes lit up. "Could it be? It's about ready. I'm taking you to try the poison pill method," Yu Qing said. Douluo Bo threw aside his humiliation and practically leaped to follow. He dismissed the disappointed children and trailed Yu Qing toward the Ice and Fire Yin-Yang Wells spring. At the spring's edge, Yu Qing first mobilized a portion of the valley's power to suppress and organize the violent ice and fire energies, making them gentle and stable. Only then did he signal Douluo Bo to enter. Standing on the platform, feeling the awe-inspiring but no longer hostile energy, Douluo Bo's heart beat faster. He looked at Yu Qing with burning expectation. "Yu Qing, the poison pill method. Is it really finished?" "In theory, yes," Yu Qing replied gravely. "But this method is unprecedented and the process exceptionally dangerous. I need to transmit the complete technique and precautions directly into your sea of consciousness. The amount is enormous. You must guard your mind and not falter for an instant." Douluo Bo drew a deep breath and bowed his head. "I'm ready." Yu Qing condensed a brilliant point of mental force at his fingertip and touched the center of Douluo Bo's brow. Instantly, a tidal wave of information, vast as the sea and intricate as the night sky, surged into Douluo Bo's sea of consciousness. Douluo Bo groaned and swayed, his face drained of color. Although he was a titled Douluo with strong mental force, the onslaught felt like his head might explode. Runic formulas, energy operation trajectories, toxin compression patterns, and countless risk warnings slammed into him. He fought to defend his mind, and with all his will, stabilize himself enough to begin absorbing and understanding the torrent. Half an hour later, Yu Qing withdrew his finger. Douluo Bo stood with his eyes closed, sweat beading across his forehead, body trembling as he continued to digest the world-shaking method. When he finally opened his eyes, his green snake pupils shone with astonishment, disbelief, and deep admiration. Such an idea, such precise control techniques. "Yu Qing, how did you come up with this?" His voice was hoarse with awe. Yu Qing smiled faintly. "Consider it an extreme variation and refinement of the dual soul cores method, specialized for lethal toxins. I made many improvements to adapt it to your Jade Phosphor Serpent Emperor Martial soul." Douluo Bo nodded slowly, the shock lingering. He drew himself together, voice steadying. "When do we start condensing the poison pill?" "Now." Yu Qing's decision was firm. "I will be your protector." Douluo Bo sat cross-legged, centering his breath and mind. Under Yu Qing's mental guidance and protection, the first step began, condensing the spirit power core. With his deep foundation and exquisite control, Douluo Bo quickly condensed a pure spirit power core of highly compressed spirit power in his dantian. Then came the most dangerous step, guiding the toxins into the soul core. Douluo Bo drew upon Jade Phosphor Serpent poison dormant in his meridians, blood, and bone marrow, and even the origin poison integrated with his spirit origin. He carefully gathered them toward the pure soul core. The instant the first wisp of dark green toxin touched the soul core, it hissed like cold water on hot oil. The core hissed and darkened, taking on an eerie green tint. Pain etched Douluo's face, but he endured and continued steadily. Qing's mental force monitored every change like the most precise instrument, constantly adjusting and stabilizing the increasingly violent toxins. Days blurred. 1 day, 3 days, 5, 10. Under absolute stillness and concentration, toxin after toxin was guided into the core. Its color deepened from pale green to deep to black. On the 11th noon, as the last wisp of origin poison integrated, the black pill trembled. A dark sheen flowed across its surface, then it stabilized and began to rotate slowly, emitting an aura that commanded all poisons, capable of being released or retracted at will. It was no longer a passive container. It had become the sovereign core of all toxins. At the same moment, the jade phosphor serpent's lifelong backlash, the curse that had tortured Douluo, taken loved ones, and driven him to the edge, vanished without a trace. A sense of lightness and surging strength filled him. His spirit power naturally broke through to rank 92. Miraculously, the green that had overtaken his hair faded back to black, leaving only dark green at the tips. His trademark green snake pupils softened, their eerie glow replaced by depth. Qing asked, anxious, "Old poison, how do you feel? Did it succeed? Any discomfort?" Douluo didn't answer at once. He stared at his hands, feeling unprecedented ease and power, and the poison pill that lay under his control like a tame limb. Then he began to tremble. His eyes flooded. Murky tears ran down his aged cheeks. He lifted his head toward Qing, lips trembling, unable to speak. Decades of anguish and guilt broke loose. The proud, taciturn poison Douluo cried out like a child, half laughing, half sobbing. "It worked! It worked! If this method had come years earlier, my wife, my son, they might not have died from the backlash. I was useless, useless." The wail poured out, raw and heartbreaking. Qing stood quietly beside him, sharing the mixture of emotions, understanding the joy, the longing, and the weight of irretrievable loss. He reached out and patted Douluo's back, offering silent comfort. Slowly, the cries subsided. Douluo wiped his face hard. His eyes were swollen, but a newborn hope and resolve shone through them. He looked at Qing with solemn gratitude. "Thank Qingyu. Douluo will never forget this." Qing shook his head and smiled. "It's in the past. From now on, the jade phosphor serpent's poison will be your greatest weapon, not a life-stealing shackle. Congratulations, old poison. You've been reborn." Douluo inhaled deeply, feeling the unprecedented power and freedom filling him, and nodded heavily. The next morning, sunlight filtered through the energy mist above the ice and fire yin-yang well valley, scattering pale light over the ground. Qing examined Douluo carefully. When he was sure the poison core had stabilized completely and there was no danger of a backlash, he finally relaxed. He slapped Douluo on the shoulder and smiled. "Old poison, congratulations. From now on, the jade phosphor serpent poison is your sharpest weapon, not a sword hanging over your head." Feeling the docile yet potent poison core within him, Douluo's face brightened with an ease and joy Qing had never seen before. He nodded fiercely. "Thank you. I'll remember this rebirth debt for the rest of my life." Qing considered for a moment and added, "The energy deep in the ice and fire well is violent, but after I adjusted it, the outer area is relatively gentle. The extreme heat and cold will temper your poison core and might even increase its potency. Spend more time cultivating here." Douluo's green eyes flashed like an explorer who'd discovered a new continent. "Really? Those benefits? Excellent. I'll move my training ground right here. Maybe my jade phosphor poison can truly ascend another level." His hunger for power never waned. Qing smiled faintly and tapped his storage bracelet. An irregular object blinked into his hand, pale green, faintly luminous, like the spinal bone of a beast, radiating toxicity and raw spirit energy. Douluo's pupils constricted. He recognized it at once. "A spirit bone?" The aura told him its age could not be low. Qing nodded. "A torso spirit bone from a 70,000-year emerald nether soul-devouring python. Extremely toxic, with a trace of mental force erosion. It's useless to me, but perfect for you. Absorb it, and you'll jump in strength." Douluo stared at the high-level spirit bone that matched his affinity, breathing quickened. a 70,000-year poison attribute spirit bone. This was a treasure any poison specialist dreamed of. Its value exceeded many 100,000-year bones. He looked up, emotions mixed, voice hoarse. Madman Yi, you brat, treating me so well, removing the backlash, gifting a spirit bone. You're really trying to bind me to your chariot and make me fight for you, huh? Yu Qing laughed, unabashed. Of course. You're vice sect master of the yin-yang sect, my right hand. The stronger you are, the steadier the sect stands. Besides, he winked, you eat my food, live in my house, use my cultivation technique, and now take my spirit bone, old poison. Where could you run? Stick with me. At that teasing look, the last barrier in Douluo's heart melted. He took a deep breath, kept the sentiment to himself, and firmly accepted the heavy emerald torso bone. No more needed to be said. Yu Qing believed that after absorbing it, Douluo's strength would surge and their bond would be unbreakable. They left the spring and returned to the living area. Yu Qing first went to his grave house to check on Duan Xin and Zi Rui. Seeing their bellies rounder each day and feeling the vigorous life within filled him with indescribable excitement and anticipation. He gently caressed their stomachs, murmured tender words, and shared the relief of Douluo's resolved backlash. Then he checked on Ling Xin and Ling Mo's training. The two girls were advancing at an astonishing rate. Their spirit power had reached the 19th level bottleneck, and their physiques, tempered by Yu Qing's medicinal baths and cultivation technique, were far beyond their peers, rivaling spirit elders. Yu Qing planned that once they broke through to level 20, he would let them absorb a piece of 10,000-year whale resin to strengthen their bodies, ensuring their second spirit ring would be at least 2,000 years in age. That evening, after hearing Father Zi's report on the yin-yang sects, recent developments, and resource allocation, Yu Qing returned to his main house. He had just pushed open the door when a purple figure shot out like a startled rabbit and crashed into him. Fox consort, he blinked. In his arms was the gorgeously fox-tailed girl, cheeks flushed and gaze evasive. Before he could react, Aru poked her head out cheerfully and dragged the fleeing fox consort back inside. Come in. Trying to run now? Fox consort, tonight you're sharing the firepower. My husband is too fierce for me alone, Aru teased. Woo, damn Aru, let me go. I don't want to be your fire-sharing object. Enjoy it yourself. Fox consort struggled in embarrassment. Heh, not up to you! Aru grinned wickedly, and while Yu Qing was still bewildered, slammed the door with a bang, sealing the room with a soundproof barrier. Hey, wait! I haven't! Yu Qing's protest was cut off. Aru rested a moment and then sat up with effort, looking at Yu Qing's flustered face and giggling, eyes teasing. Now I finally understand, Yu Qing rolled his eyes. Oh, finally letting go? Not shy anymore. Aru's pretty face reddened, but she insisted that this isn't letting go. It's strategic to help my husband cultivate better. Yes, that's it. Yu Qing laughed and let it lie. Aru lingered a little longer, then staggered out, throwing Yu Qing a look that said, you know what I mean. Only then did he turn to the fox consort, who lay on the bed still dazed. He went over, half amused, half concerned. You all right? Fox consort forced her eyes open a slit, glared and croaked. Aren't you going to stop her? She's practically a hooligan. Yu Qing shrugged, looking helpless. To me it seems like a good thing. Why would I stop it? Beast, Fox consort fumed. She tried to roll away, but her limbs ached. She could only grind her teeth. Scoundrel! Damn rabbit! Yu Qing chuckled, climbed onto the bed, and drew her soft, yielding body into his arms. Your mouth says no, but your body's honest. Now it's time for our dual cultivation. Fox consort's cheeks flamed. She shut her eyes in mortification and buried her face against his chest, but still she pressed her palms to his and began yin-yang conjunction. When the session ended, she hugged Yu Qing contentedly and refused to let go. He allowed it, closed his eyes, and slipped his consciousness into his sea of mind. He called up the system interface. His hard work and daily accumulation had pushed his yin-yang points past 300,000 again. A satisfied smile touched his lips. Time to test my luck, he murmured, and opened the system mall. Rows of item icons refreshed, spirit bones, rare herbs, special ores, high-grade medicinal pills. Plenty, but most things weren't urgent. Yu Qing wasn't picky. He bought every item that caught his eye, fattening the yin-yang sect's reserves. After 4 refreshes and a hefty expenditure of yin-yang points, 2 items finally made his eyes light up. An 8,000-year spirit ring, dimly gleaming, taken from a holy pattern shadow leopard, and a spirit source. Not bad, that makes 8 spirit sources total. He stashed both in system space. He still had roughly 200,000 yin-yang points left. One last refresh. Yu Qing drew a deep breath and pressed the 5th refresh button. The merchandise list flickered. When the first icon and description appeared, Yu Qing's breath caught and his pupils dilated as disbelief lit his face. God-bestowed spirit ring, a perfect spirit ring condensed from supreme divine force. No spirit beast need be slain. After absorption, its age will rise to the absolute limit your physique and mental force can bear. Price, 200,000 yin-yang points. A God-bestowed spirit ring. His heart pounded. He bought the milky white, radiantly sacred orb without hesitation. The flawless white sphere, brimming with vast divine force, hovered quietly in his system space. Yu Qing fought to steady his excitement. His second spirit, Black Star Sinking Abyss, currently had a single 500,000-year ring fused from the Thousand June Ant Emperor. The second slot had remained empty. This God-bestowed ring was the perfect solution. It would scale to the maximum his body and mind could tolerate. Excellent. My second spirit ring is settled. He resisted the urge to absorb it immediately, withdrew from his sea of consciousness, glanced at the sleeping fox consort with a fond smile, and then began refining the vast tide of yin-yang power he'd accumulated through the night's strenuous work, preparing himself for tomorrow's absorption. The next morning, Yu Qing rose with spirit high. He summoned Duanxin, Zirui, Aru, Fox Consort, and Dugu Bo to his study. They gathered with curious, puzzled faces. "Madman Ye, why call us here all of a sudden? Urgent news." Dugu Bo asked first, his green eyes probing. The 4 women looked on with concern. Yu Qing's grin was mysterious and excited. "Relax, it's good news. Last night I completed another difficult god trial, and the reward was this." He extended his hand. The milky halo of the God-bestowed spirit ring appeared above his palm, emitting indescribable sacred energy. "This is?" All 5 felt the holy power and widened their eyes. "It's a God-bestowed spirit ring," Yu Qing said, pride in his voice. "Forged by divine might. Absorb it, and you needn't kill a single spirit beast. Its final age will reach the absolute limit your physique and mental force can bear." "What? No need to kill a spirit beast? Its age depends on your own tolerance? Pushing to the limit. How is that possible?" They all gasped. This overturned everything they knew about spirit masters. "You gathered us just to announce this?" Dugubo's voice trembled. Yu Qing smiled smugly. "Of course not. I'm going to absorb it right in front of you, let you witness a miracle and stand guard for me." Fox Consort glanced worriedly at Duanxin and Zirui. "But Shiner and Rui are pregnant. Won't the energy fluctuations be too intense?" "Relax," Yu Qing soothed. "I'll keep it under control. Besides, seeing a God-bestowed ring's transformation firsthand will help your cultivation." He fell quiet for a moment, expression turning grave as he rotated his left hand. A tang blade materialized in his grip, pitch black, as if condensed from the starry void, its surface flecked with starlight. Purple lightning flickered in an eye-shaped sigil on the hilt. It was his second spirit, Black Star Sinking Abyss. At the same moment, an orange-red spirit ring rose and hummed beneath his feet. The phantom of an enormous ant emperor loomed above it, roaring, a might that made the titled fighters present, Aru and Dugu Bo, shudder at their core. A vicious beast spirit ring? And far beyond the 100,000-year level. Aru and Fox Consort cried in unison, horror and awe on their faces. Only now did they grasp how terrifying the baseline of Yu Qing's second spirit was. Yu Qing restrained the oppressive aura of the Thousand June Ant Emperor ring. Cradling the ball of holy light that was the God-bestowed spirit ring, he crushed it gently beneath 5 pairs of unblinking eyes. Womb, milky sacred radiance burst out and formed a pure white ring that floated before him, then settled into the vacant second position on Black Star Sinking Abyss. He sat cross-legged, closed his eyes, and focused inward, guiding his spirit power to link with the God-bestowed ring and direct its transformation. Under the stunned gaze of the 5 onlookers, the new white ring began to change the instant his spirit power flowed into it, so quickly the eye could follow. In a few breaths, the white deepened to yellow, then shifted into regal purple. It kept darkening until, amid collective gasps, it turned somber black, a 10,000-year ring, ink black and unlike any ordinary 10,000-year ring. That was only the beginning. Fed by Yu Qing's vast spirit power and immense mental strength, the black ring continued to deepen and strengthen, its age skyrocketing. 10,000, 20, 30, 50, 80,000 years. In only 3 minutes, the ring had become so dark it seemed to swallow light. Its energy reached the fearsome level of 90,000 years. The 5 watchers had passed shock and stared in stupefaction and hungry curiosity, forgetting even to breathe. Another 5 minutes. A startling trace of crimson appeared deep in that ink-black band, and a silent thunder seemed to roll through the study. A 100,000-year spirit ring, Douluo Bo croaked, voice trembling. The crimson spread like dye, filling the ring with boundless life-bearing pressure. A complete 100,000-year spirit ring. Yu Qing did not stop. He poured ever more energy into it, pushing the age higher. Half an hour later, a thin golden line showed on the ring's edge. 2 hours after that, a second golden line, its red deepening, almost glowing. 4 hours brought a third line, 7 hours, a fourth, 12 hours, a fifth. The red had taken on a dense, weighty quality. Daylight broke outside. A new day had dawned. Pain was clear on Yu Qing's face, jaw clenched, body trembling, but he persisted, driving the ring higher. Finally, a sixth golden line emerged. Womb. The ring's color shifted, the blood red vanished, and a warm, regal orange took its place. It was now a vicious beast spirit ring, surpassing even his first. At that point, his agony peaked, yet he squeezed out every last drop. When a faint seventh golden line traced itself across the orange gold, he reached the absolute limit his body and mind could bear. He ceased forcing the age further, and instead circulated his cultivation technique at full strength, formally absorbing and fusing the terrifying ring. Its final age, 700,000 years. Silence filled the room. Duanxin and Zirui covered their mouths, eyes shining with worry and pride. Aru and Fox Consort clenched their fists, awed and aching. Douluo Bo's expression was pure admiration. They had witnessed a miracle, a God-bestowed spirit ring transformed from white to orange gold, from 10 to 700,000 years. The sight was seared into their souls, giving them the clearest glimpse of divine might. At the same time, a yearning sprouted in each of them. What if they could obtain such a ring? But they stifled it immediately. For now, all they wished was that Yu Qing had absorbed the heaven-defying ring safely and completely. 67. Successful soul rings and leisurely time. A 700,000-year spirit ring contained a depth of power far beyond anything Yu Qing had imagined. Absorbing the earlier 500,000-year Thousand June Emperor ring had felt like channeling a surging river into his dantian. Trying to take in this God-given 700,000-year ring was like forcing an entire raging ocean into a pond. The milky white halo of holy light had long since faded, replaced by an orange radiance as heavy as a stellar core and as brilliant as a blazing sun. It enveloped Yu Qing completely. Boundless energy burst through him like a breached dam, relentlessly scouring his meridians, bones, even his organs. Agony, indescribable agony, washed over him in wave after wave. Fine, bloody fissures split his skin, mended in an instant by his immense power of life, then opened again under the onslaught of wielder energy. The cycle never ended. His face drained of color, teeth clenched, temples throbbing, muscles spasmed beyond his control. Had he not already formed the yin-yang complementary dual soul cores, giving him microscopic control to channel and buffer the torrent? Had his spirit of life not granted terrifying regenerative power that mended wounds in real time? Had his will not been iron-forged and long accustomed to utmost pain, he would have been ripped apart or snapped mentally the moment the ring struck him. Convert like mad. Yu Qing poured every scrap of mind force inward, furiously circulating his cultivation technique to peel, refine, and convert the incoming ocean of energy into usable spirit power, threading it into his dual soul cores and compressing it to the extreme. The process crawled. It felt hopeless. 1 day, 2 days, 3, time slipped by in endless pain and conversion. The 5 guardians in the study lived each hour in tension. Except for the rituals each day when Aro left to prepare food for Xiaowu and check on her, she never left Yu Qing's side. Her pink eyes brimmed with anguish. Slender fingers twisted the hem of her clothes until the nails nearly drew blood. Countless times she longed to help, but the absorption admitted no outside interference. She could only endure her suffering. Douluo set aside everything, spending most of each day here. His green eyes never left Qing as he monitored the terrifying fluctuations of energy, ready to act if something went wrong. His admiration for Qing deepened. Had he himself endured such inhuman torment, he would have broken long ago. Though Duanxin and Zirui were heavily pregnant and should have been resting, they refused to leave. Aru set out 2 soft couches in a corner of the study, and the expectant mothers kept vigil day and night, hands on their swollen bellies, their beautiful eyes never leaving Qing. Fox Consort's feelings were the most conflicted. She feared for Qing, yet was irresistibly drawn to the concentrated energy spilling out. Knowing her own cultivation made worry pointless, she simply sat nearby, guarding while greedily absorbing stray surplus, the kind of nourishment she could not refuse. The effect was astonishing. In barely 20 days, her spirit power skyrocketed from level 32 straight to the level 36 bottleneck, smashing through every obstacle. Her power felt solid and foundation stable. She even sensed a quiet strengthening of her physique. Rather than worry, I should grow stronger first, she told herself, pushing anxiety aside to focus on cultivation. Once her power stabilized, she would try to condense a 4th spirit ring. 20 long days passed. 2/3 of that sea-like divine force trapped inside Qing had finally been converted. The most perilous stage was over, and the remaining conversions sped up markedly. Everyone breathed a small, guarded sigh, but dared not relax. 7 more days went by. When the last wisp of energy was refined and perfectly fused into the orange spirit ring hovering above his black star-sinking abyss spirit, a complete, mighty, boundless aura settled within him. Success! The 700,000-year God-bestowed spirit ring had been absorbed. Qing did not awaken immediately. He spent another full day circulating his technique, forging and compressing the new spirit power until his realm was utterly stable and the power moved like an extension of his arm. Not until evening, when the afterglow of sunset spilled through the window across his calm face, did he draw a deep breath and open his eyes. Orange starlight flashed and vanished in depths as vast as the universe. The first thing he saw were 5 faces etched with exhaustion and worry, now breaking into radiant joy. Warmth flooded him, washing away the last remnants of fatigue and pain. To have such a home, to have them, what more did a man need? Husband, a Qing, you're finally awake. Duanxin, Zirui, and Aru rose almost at once and rushed forward, embracing him carefully, voices choked with sobs and lingering fear. Fox Consort stood as well, breathtakingly beautiful and relieved, the small smile on her face shy and full of concern. Douluo laughed loudly, slapped Qing's shoulder, gently, and boomed, "Good, good! Little freak, you didn't disappoint this old man. A 700,000-year spirit ring. Ha ha! Simply monstrous." He waved a hand with mock solemnity. "All right, as long as you're fine, kid. This old man has to go see Yan Yan. After so many days without company, that little girl's bound to throw a tantrum. I'll come drink with you tomorrow to celebrate." With that, he strode out in high spirits. Qing wrapped his arms around his 3 wives and soothed them. There, I'm all right now. Sorry I worried you." He looked to Fox Consort and offered a warm smile. Her cheeks flushed, and she nodded. That night, Qing did no cultivation. He stayed with his wives. Duanxin and Zirui kept in the main house, telling them what he'd experienced during the absorption and savoring the warmth and peace of having survived a calamity. Only when it grew late and Duanxin and Zirui began to nod off did he carefully escort them back to their rooms and settle them in. When he returned to his own door and pushed it open, soft footsteps approached. Turning, he saw Aro grinning mischievously, tugging along a very reluctant fox consort who kept her eyes averted. "Husband, the night is long, and after a great battle we must properly relax and replenish our origin chi," Aru chirped. Without waiting, she shoved Foxcourt into the room, slipped in herself, and shut the door. Faced with these two, one fiery, one shy yet alluring, Qing felt a twinge in his lower back, even as his heart burned. Clearly, tonight would test his resolve once more. Early the next morning, Qing yawned and rubbed his sore waist. As a life-attributed titled Douluo, his physique and recovery were formidable, but even they could not withstand constant draining by his Tao companions. Ever since Aru discovered the relief of sharing the burden, she had become even keener to drag Fox Consort into their sessions. "Ah, this blend of pain and joy is life," he murmured with a wry chuckle. Still, indulging fully once every 20 days or so felt like earthly bliss. Thanks to last night's special cultivation and the yin-yang conjunction, Fox Consort had gained even more. Already at the level 36 bottleneck, under the pure energy feedback from Qing and the secrets of the Dual Cultivation Secret Codex, her spirit power soared to level 40. Breaking an entire major realm in a month felt unreal. She only needed time to compress and stabilize the new spirit power. Perhaps after one more dual cultivation, she could prepare to condense a fourth spirit ring. A 10,000-year fourth ring now seemed within reach. Qing himself, despite absorbing a full 700,000-year ring, remained at level 97. That was not a lack of gain, far from it. As a super Douluo, each level demanded astronomical amounts of spirit power, and someone with dual soul cores required far more. The 700,000-year ring had increased his total spirit power by roughly 1/3. To reach level 98, he would need at least 2 more rings of that caliber. The days that followed slowed into a contented, leisurely rhythm. Having condensed the yin-yang complementary dual soul cores, grasped the core secrets of spirit-soul technology, and mastered the crafting principles of many high-tier spirit tools, Qing had absorbed most of the system's rewards into his foundation. Only the divine technique, Falling Night Galaxy, which required comprehension of the Milky Way's true meaning, progressed slowly, but he was in no rush. Hastening that would spoil it. His goal was simple and clear. Wait calmly for Duanshin and Zirui to give birth safely, and carefully guide Ling Xin and Ling Mao until they obtained their second spirit rings. Everything else could wait until after this year. So Qing turned himself into a full-time husband and model master. He spent most days by Duanshin and Zirui's sides, caring for them attentively, feeling their unborn children grow, whispering endearments and sharing the anticipation of parenthood. At set times, he checked Ling Xin and Ling Mo's cultivation, prepared medicinal baths, explained spirit knowledge, and laid a firm foundation for their future ability to absorb over-level spirit rings after they reached level 20. In the afternoons, he took Xiaowu and Duguyan to play in the valley, told amusing spirit beast stories, and guided them through basic physical training, relishing the innocent joys of raising daughters. Of course, there was still the once every 5 days homework with Aru or Fox Consort. Now that Qing had the leisure, yin-yang harmonization became regular, mostly in the form of yin-yang conjunctions. Aru no longer had to wait 10 days between sessions. Married life returned to a steady sweetness, and Fox Consort found relief as well. Most of the time, things remained peaceful, except about every fortnight, when an enthusiastic Aru would drag him into a special cultivation session that left Fox Consort mortified and everyone involved agreeing it was unforgettable. 68. New Year. A month had passed since he absorbed that staggering 700,000-year God-bestowed spirit ring. Within the ice and fire yin-yang well valley, life had settled into a peaceful routine. Under the careful management of Father Duan and Father Z, the yin-yang sect ran smoothly. Disciples cultivated and worked in turn, children played and laughed, and the valley thrummed with quiet vitality. Qing's days fell into a comfortable rhythm. Most of his attention was devoted to the 2 unborn children in Duanshin's and Zirui's wombs. He rotated a variety of meticulously prepared pregnancy-stabilizing medicinal dishes so they never ate the same thing twice. The rare fruits and heaven and earth treasures the system had rewarded him, specifically for nourishing fetuses and boosting innate aptitude, had long since been absorbed, their gentleness transforming into steady medicinal efficacy in the 2 mothers and their babies. Qing could feel the life force of those little ones growing stronger each day, filled with vigorous power of life. Aru had also benefited greatly from the bi-monthly special cultivation sessions. Her 7th spirit ring, formerly close to 90,000 years, finally broke through and became a new 100,000-year ring, thanks to the twin blessings of the yin-yang conjunction with Qing and the dual cultivation secret codex. Her strength had jumped again, and with it, her mood brightened. She'd grown more relaxed about visits, no longer coming every 3 to 5 days. Now she showed up for a deep, wholehearted exchange roughly every half-month. As she put it, a thin stream flowing long reaches far. The sessions themselves were substantial in both length and intensity. Fox Consort's progress was even swifter. Several yin-yang conjunction sessions in 1 month stabilized her at level 45, and she condensed a pitch-black, 10,000-year fourth spirit ring to her liking. The rapid gains made her increasingly devoted to yin-yang conjunction dual cultivation. Who could resist leveling up so fast while lying down, accompanied by exquisite pleasure? Still, each session left her drained. She needed several days to compress and purify surging spirit power, refine yin-yang energy within her body, and consume the special medicinal cuisine Qing prepared to harden her physique. That whole recovery process took at least 6 or 7 days before the next session could happen, enough to leave the sly vixen a little impatient. Under Qing's careful care and nourishment, the twin sisters Ling Xin and Ling Mao shed their previous thinness and timidity. They had grown into graceful young women with bright eyes and confident temperaments. Their spirit power had climbed to the level 20 bottleneck. Qing, however, was in no rush to take them to claim second spirit rings. Instead, he fed them a daily medicinal cuisine laced with 10,000-year whale resin to further consolidate their foundation, widen their meridians, and strengthen their bodies. He wanted their foundations so solid that their second spirit rings would be at least 2,000 years, or if possible, push toward 3,000. Looking after the children had become one of Qing's most indispensable joys. The 2 little girls, Xiao Wu and Du Guyan, clung to him like little shadows. He relished the afternoons playing with them in the valley, telling stories and teaching simple physical exercises. Xiao Wu's talent as a natural leader had fully awakened. Lively, cheerful, and a little bossy, and with the innate advantage of being a 100,000-year spirit beast, she had become the undisputed big sister among the children, leading a pack of youngsters as they roared through the mountains all day. Time passed quietly and quickly in such warm, ordinary days. Winter deepened. 2 more months slid by. On this night, the wind bit and the stars were thin, but Qing's main room was as warm as spring, brightly lit. The 5 of them sat around the heater. Duanxin and Zirui lounged in armchairs with thick cushions, their bellies round and high, faces glowing with maternal happiness. Aru leaned lazily beside Qing, a satisfied smile in her pink eyes. Fox Consort sat on a soft stool a little farther away, cradling a teacup. Her fox-like eyes kept glancing at Qing with a faint, unreadable tenderness. Outside the night was midwinter dark, but inside it was warm and full of laughter. They chatted about small everyday events and swapped cultivation insights. Qing answered questions about techniques now and then, and the atmosphere was comfortable and easy. When he glanced through the window at the stingy moonlight, Qing sighed softly. When today's over, it'll be a new year. Time really flies. Duanxin stroked her round belly and smiled, slightly silly with happiness. It feels like we met husband just yesterday. If I count carefully, it's been over a year, hasn't it? Zirui, seated beside her, corrected gently. To be precise, 10 months and 7 days. Aru's eyes flashed with open envy as she murmured, I'm almost 7 months along. The little ones are growing so fast. Fox Consort rolled her eyes and jabbed. Envious? Tough luck. Some people just can't get pregnant no matter how much they harmonize. Aru's face went stiff. Then she snapped her hand out and gave Fox Consort a light flick on the forehead. Stinky fox, is your skin itchy? Believe me, next time I'll have husband give you special attention so you won't be able to get out of bed for 3 days. Fox Consort yelped and clutched her forehead, then shut up, though her eyes flashed defiantly as she muttered, Humph, don't act so proud. You only had a head start. If we'd transformed together, who knows who'd win? Watching the bickering that was really sisterly closeness, Qing felt a swell of satisfaction. This domestic harmony was the home he had longed for. Late that night, as the stove fire dwindled, they bade each other good night and prepared for bed, smiling with shared hopes. Next year, we must surpass ourselves, they said in unison. their faces bright with resolve. At dawn on New Year's Day, the first weak winter light slipped through the clouds into the valley. Qing had risen early and personally prepared a sumptuous, auspicious New Year medicinal breakfast. He packed a few exquisite gifts and headed for the small courtyard where Bo lived. "Old Poison, Happy New Year! Come out and receive your guest." Qing shoved the gate open and called cheerfully. Bo was stretching in the yard. He turned, grumbling. "What are you shouting for so early? This old man isn't deaf." They followed their usual routine, teasing and insulting first, pleasantries later. Qing handed Bo a neatly wrapped present, a New Year gift. "Good for consolidating your poison, Dan." Bo took the parcel. His eyes warmed despite his tone. "Humph, at least some of you kids have a conscience." He disappeared into the house and returned with a jade box, offering it back. A return gift. Qing opened the box. A strange aura washed over him. A fresh scent mingled with a subtle, pulse-quickening hint of poison. Inside lay an emerald-green flower shaped oddly, its leaves marked with 7 eerie silver veins. "That's a 7 despair jade phosphorus flower?" Qing said, surprised. It was an extraordinarily rare, top-grade poisonous herb, its toxicity fierce, yet it contained a purifying, tempering power. Bo's lips quirked with pride. "I cultivated it for years to get this. I figured your poison disciple might make good use of it someday." Qing accepted the gift with a grateful smile. "Many thanks, Old Poison. I really appreciate it." Finished with the formalities, Qing ducked into the house, pulled the still sleepy little Duguyan from her blankets, dressed her with practiced hands, and carried the groggy child outside. Bo rolled his eyes, lips twitching into a reluctant smile. "Brat, Yanyan's almost your daughter." Qing waved a hand without looking back. "Isn't your granddaughter my disciple? No need to be formal. Let's go." Carrying the warm little girl, Qing returned to his residence where the New Year breakfast was ready. The family gathered and ate together, savoring the first meal of the year in comforting warmth. The entire yin-yang sect was steeped in a peaceful, festive mood. Children wore new clothes, running and laughing as they received candies and red envelopes. Adults visited with New Year greetings and sincere smiles. Simple lanterns and decorations adorned the valley. Chatter and laughter filled the air. Standing by the window and watching the lively scene, Qing felt that sense of belonging and happiness, the feeling of being truly at home, more tangibly than ever. 69. Heaven Dew City Grand Battle Arena. The New Year festivities had died down, and the valley around the Ice and Fire Yin-Yang Well had returned to its usual calm. Qing sat in his study, a blank sheet of paper before him and a pen in hand, seriously laying out the sect's primary goals for the year. Although the Yin-Yang sect was newly founded, its roots were still shallow and there was much to be done. The first priority is, of course, ensuring Shiner and Ruyi give birth safely. Qing wrote that down first. It was the most important task and left no room for mistakes. Both wives were due within 2 months, so he had to remain vigilant and fully prepared at all times. Second, expand the ranks of our disciples. Qing frowned. Counting himself as sect master and Bo as vice sect master, the Yin-Yang sect only numbered 86 people. For a power backed by 3 titled Douluo, himself, Aru, and Bo, that was pitifully small, not even as large as some medium sects. Talent was the foundation of any power's development. Recruiting new blood and training loyal, capable pillars would be a major focus this year. He intended to have Father Duan and Father Z keep an eye out for orphans or frustrated spirit masters wandering the outer world, proceeding carefully and steadily. Third, plan for the 3rd spirit ring for my 2nd spirit, the Black Star Sinking Abyss. Qing's gaze darkened. A god-bestowed spirit ring was something one could hope for, but not count on. Last time had been lucky. He could not pin all his hopes on chance and needed to prepare suitable spirit beast targets in advance. Since the Black Star Sinking Abyss specialized in destructive power, the required spirit beast would have to be extremely rare and powerful. At least a top-tier beast of 10,000 years, possibly even 100,000 years. He planned to begin searching after Shiner and Ruyi had given birth, and he already had a candidate in mind. For now, though, the core task remained, to accompany and protect his 2 pregnant wives until the new lives arrived. Time flew. Half a month passed in the blink of an eye. On this day, Yu Qing took the sisters Ling Xin and Ling Mao, both having brought themselves to peak condition, back into the depths of the sunset forest. Under Yu Qing's precise mental scans and the protection of his strength, finding suitable spirit beasts didn't take long. He selected a top-tier spirit beast of roughly 2,300 years of cultivation for each sister. One was a ghost shadow devil spider, adept at concealment and neurotoxins. The other a diamond mammoth, with colossal strength, ironclad defense, and an almost indestructible carapace. The absorption process had its ups and downs, but with Yu Qing's protection and the solid foundation built by previous medicinal baths, careful diets, and 10,000-year whale resin, both sisters succeeded in absorbing the spirit rings without real danger. Their spirit powers jumped forward and stabilized at rank 24. More importantly, the spirit abilities they gained were formidable. Ling Xin obtained from the Ghost Shadow Devil Spider Ring a second spirit ability, Neurotoxin Paralysis Web. She could spray a wide, purple-black web that carried a potent neuroparalytic toxin and could even slightly erode an opponent's spirit power. Ling Mao obtained from the Diamond Mammoth Ring a second spirit ability, Star-Shattering Heavy Armor. For a short time, her defense would surge, covering her in a metallic luster carapace that converted part of the impact she received into bonus force for her next attack. With that, both sisters officially became spirit grandmasters. Their strength had leaped qualitatively. Next came the crucial practical tempering. Yu Qing drew up a detailed plan. At first, the two sisters will spar each other for 7 days. The goal isn't to find a winner, but to familiarize themselves with their new spirit abilities, learn each other's combat rhythm and style, and cultivate initial teamwork. After 7 days, I'll take them to the Heaven Do Great Spirit Arena for real combat matches. There, they'll gain experience against many opponents, sharpen their battle intent, and further refine their coordination. Yu Qing had great confidence in them. One walked a path of eerie, corrosive toxins that undermined defenses. The other favored overwhelming, metallic brute force. Both had top-tier spirit rings, well beyond ordinary limits, and exceptionally solid foundations. Within the same rank, they could be called nearly unbeatable. Challenging a spirit elder across ranks wasn't out of the question. For the next 7 days, the valley's training grounds rang with clashes of spirit power and the sisters' fierce cries. From tentative probing, they quickly moved to intense exchanges, mastering their new powers and learning each other's tactical habits. 7 days later, Yu Qing took the two prepared sisters to Heaven Do City. He personally led the group. Aru came along excitedly. Her stated reason was to cheer for her disciples, while Father Duan acted as temporary team leader, handling registration and logistics. Fox Consort wanted to go see the sights too, but Aru promptly put her foot down. "Fox Consort, you'd better stay home and refine," Aru said with a teasing smile as she looped an arm around Fox Consort's shoulders. Her tone left no doubt. "You only recently transformed and haven't reached maturity yet. The spirit beast aura on you is still faint. Heaven Do City is full of hidden dragons and crouching tigers. If some sharp-eyed elder notices you, that could cause trouble for a Qing. Once you're stronger, I'll go anywhere with you." Fox Consort was unwilling, but she knew Aru was right. She watched the others leave with a wistful gaze. The party of 5 left the Ice and Fire Yin-Yang Well, crossed the Sunset Forest, and took the main road to Heaven Do City. As the capital of the Heaven Do Empire, the city's majesty and prosperity far outshone Icefall City, the capital of Fasinuo Province. When the towering walls, dozens of meters high, came into view, Ling Mao couldn't hide her wonder. "Master, it's so magnificent," she exclaimed, eyes wide as she took in the serpentine city walls and the endless stream of people at the gates. Ling Xin was calmer, watching the well-dressed nobles and wealthy merchants come and go. She let out a faint, cool sigh. Truly worthy of being the empire's heart, so prosperous, but that prosperity leaves little room for ordinary people like us with no backing. Yu Qing smiled and nodded. "Senior, good observation. This city's wealth is built on strict ranks and order. Most people here are nobles, from powerful spirit master families, or at least very rich merchants. For outsiders without a foundation, trying to establish themselves here is as hard as reaching the heavens." "Master," Ling Mo asked curiously, Have you ever thought of making Heaven Do City the Yin-Yang sect's headquarters? Qing shook his head without hesitation. I never have. Whether Heaven Do City, Star Luo City, or any other large city, I wouldn't choose them. His gaze grew distant. Placing the core of his power under the eyes of so many was unwise, given how things might change in the future. They passed through the wide, heavy gates and stepped into the city proper. The sights overwhelmed the sisters. Clean, broad streets packed with traffic, shops lining both sides selling dazzling wares, buildings of every style, and a bustling, prosperous atmosphere unique to an imperial capital. Even the faces of passers-by carried hints of innate superiority and haste. Aru tried to keep an air of nonchalance, but curiosity and wonder constantly brightened her pink eyes. After transforming, most of her time had been in the Stardo Great Forest and the Yin-Yang Well. This was her first time in a capital like this. Guided by Qing's mental force, they soon arrived at their destination, the Heaven Do Great Spirit Arena. The complex was enormous, covering nearly 1,000 acres, far larger than the Suotuo Great Spirit Arena. A soaring dome, grand arches, and the constant surge of people, along with the heat and clamor that reached even from outside, proclaimed the place's importance. This isn't just a venue for spirit masters to compete and make a name, Qing told the sisters. It also hosts slave spirit arenas and noble spirit arenas. Matches from Spirit Grandmaster to Spirit Emperor levels take place here every day. Father Duan handled registration with practiced ease. Soon, 2 brand-new Iron Spirit combat badges were placed in Ling Xin and Ling Mao's hands. Engraved on them were the code names the sisters had chosen: Ling Xin, Heart Eroder; Ling Mao, Star Shatterer. The names fit their chosen paths perfectly, one eroding enemies with eerie toxins, the other crushing foes with raw, overwhelming power. Holding the cool iron badges and feeling the challenge and opportunity they represented, both sisters' excitement swelled and their battle intent kindled. Before they stepped into the waiting area to prepare for their first fights, Qing took 2 items from his spirit tool, 2 ancient-looking masks that covered the entire face. "Put these on," he instructed, serious and earnest. In the Great Spirit Arena, unless you have absolute strength that crushes everything, concealing your face and identity is necessary protection. From now on, you are only Heart Eroder and Star Shatterer. Ling Xin and Ling Mao accepted the masks solemnly and put them on. The cold touch against their faces cut them off from outside prying and from their own nerves, leaving only the blazing battle intent in their eyes. Through the masks' eye holes, they looked out at the massive, brightly lit arena stage and the deafening cheers, and each of them quietly clenched a fist. The Heaven Do City Great Spirit Arena was a roaring sea of sound, the circular stands packed to capacity as countless spectators leaned forward, shouting and cheering for the spirit masters they had bet on. The debut of Ling Xin and Ling Mao hadn't turned many heads at first. They were just 2 newcomers, each holding the lowest level Iron Spirit badge. Next up, contestant number 17, Heart Eater, versus contestant number 9, Mad Wolf. The host's voice boomed through the amplification spirit tool. Heart Eater just registered today. Her opponent, Mad Wolf, is on a 4-match winning streak at the Spirit Grandmaster level, an attack system Spirit Master whose beast spirit is feared across the arena. Can this newcomer pull off a miracle? Whistles, boos, and scattered cheers erupted. Most of the crowd favored the experienced Mad Wolf over the unknown newcomer. Ling Xin inhaled slowly to calm her racing heart and glanced at Qing beside her. Her gaze was steady. "Master, I'm going." Qing gave a warm, encouraging smile and a gentle nod. "Go. Combat is the truest test of cultivation. Show me what you've learned." She nodded, turned, and stepped onto the contestant passage with measured steps. On the stage, Mad Wolf was already waiting, a burly young man of knotted muscles and unmistakable arrogance. He sneered at Ling Xin as if she were prey. "Heh, little girl, you're lucky to meet Lord Mad Wolf in your first match. I'll go easy on you so you don't lose too badly." Under her mask, Ling Xin's expression was unreadable. Only a cold light shone from her eyes through the slits. She steadied her breath. Spirit power flowed quietly within her. Beneath her skin, faint, purple-black veins writhed like living things. Mad Wolf bristled at the slight. When the host shouted, "Begin!" he roared, and a pair of yellow spirit rings rose under his feet. His body bulged, hair stiffened, hands lengthened into claws. Spirit, Blood Wolf, Possession. First spirit ability, Blood Wolf Assault. He launched without mercy, claws flashing in a bloody afterimage as they tore through the air toward Ling Xin's face. The crowd murmured, expecting the newcomer to be shredded, but Ling Xin didn't release her spirit. At the last instant, she twisted her body with unnerving suppleness and dodged as if she had no bones. Her slender arms shot out like lightning, 5 fingers curved, black qi coiling around them, and she caught Mad Wolf's wrist. "What?" he gasped, feeling an iron lock on his wrist. His momentum stopped. He strained to break free, only to find the strength holding him far beyond his calculations. Ling Xin flicked her wrist, sending a clever riposte that staggered his heavy frame. She slipped aside and struck under his ribs with a palm like a viper. He groaned, cold force piercing him, blood and qi churning. He staggered back, stunned. "You aren't even opening your spirit?" Mad Wolf snarled, humiliated and enraged. Ling Xin's single beckoning finger spoke disdain. Mad Wolf's eyes burned. Second spirit ability, Blood Wolf Gale Claw. Another spirit ring flared. Bloody claw shadows filled the air, a gale of slashing strikes far deadlier than before. The crowd held its breath. Yet again, Ling Xin did not activate spirit rings. She seemed to ghost through the storm of claws, her footwork impossibly light, evading at the last millisecond. When she could not evade, she parried with palms, fingers, or elbows threaded in black qi that sizzled on contact, eroding the bloody spirit power. She fought entirely with her physical body, movement technique, and a corrosive poison, slowly turning the tide against a spirit grandmaster who had unleashed 2 abilities. Mad Wolf grew frantic. His attacks slid off like oil, and each counterpunch from Ling Xin seemed to find a precise, painful spot. Every contact sent a cold, bone-eating energy leaking into him that forced him to divert spirit power to resist. He was getting worn down. How is this possible? What is her spirit? He roared inwardly. In a fierce exchange, Ling Xin found her opening. Her right hand blackened as if with ink. Dark droplets seeped and corroded pits into the stage floor where they fell. "Your attacks are too weak," she said for the first time, her voice cold beneath the mask. Her pitch-black palm ignored Mad Wolf's frantic block and punched straight into his chest as if through paper. He spat blood and flew backward, toxins surging into his meridians, pain shredding through him. Ling Xin followed, grabbed his ankles, spun, and heaved. Mad Wolf arced through the air like a cannonball and slammed outside the bounds of the spirit stage onto the protective mats. He struggled twice, then lost consciousness. Silence blanketed the arena for a heartbeat before the host burst out. "The winner! Heart Eater!" A thunder of cheers and gasps rose as the crowd exploded. A newcomer, who hadn't even opened her spirit, had just defeated a 4-win attack system spirit grandmaster. It was nothing short of a miracle. Ling Xin stood in the center of the stage, calming the churning spirit power inside. She glanced up toward where Yu Qing sat. He smiled and gave a thumbs up. The corner of her mouth under the mask lifted in a small, joyous curve. Ling Mao's solo fight was different in style. Her opponent was a defense system spirit master with a heavy rock shield. She, too, did not open her spirit at once. Instead, she charged like a bull, fists crashing into the rock shield. Each strike was a dull boom with sparks flying. The power numbed the defender's arms and forced him back. In just 3 punches, the shield and its bearer were blasted off the stage. Violence, pure, uncompromising violence, defined Ling Mu's fight. The crowd roared anew. The name Star Crusher burned into many hearts. In the 2-on-2 that followed, Heart Eater and Star Crusher teamed up. Despite a few coordination hiccups, they finished the match within 3 minutes, their individual strengths far outclassing the usual Iron Rank fighters. Yu Qing watched from the stands, thoughtful. Their power was unquestionable, but their teamwork still needed polishing. They would be staying in the Great Spirit Arena a while longer. From then on, the sisters tempered themselves in the Heaven Do Great Spirit Arena. Yu Qing set a strict regimen, at least 1 solo and 1 duo match per day. From Spirit Grandmaster level opponents to proactively challenging Spirit Elders, their combat experience grew visibly. Eerie Toxin Erosion and Brutal Metallic Eruption, 2 utterly different styles, both delivered astonishing results. 10 days later, each sister held a perfect 10 wins in their ranks, and their iron badges upgraded to copper. Heart Eater and Star Crusher began to rise through the lower-tier fame of the arena. Tonight, however, they faced an unprecedentedly powerful test, an overrank challenge. Their opponents were a veteran Spirit Elder duo around rank 39, seasoned and battle-hardened. From the outset, the Elders avoided direct confrontation with Ling Mao, using speed and ranged abilities to harass and wear down Ling Xin. The sisters were put under heavy pressure. "Ha-ha, you little girls! Did you really think a few victories made you invincible?" A tall, thin Spirit Elder laughed, sending wind blades to limit Ling Xin's movement. "The rank gap is a chasm. Surrender now." "Big Brother's right. You haven't even released your spirits and you want to challenge us? Dream on," the short, fat Elder taunted, hurling giant stones at Ling Mao to keep her tied up. Most of the crowd expected the twin stars to be crushed. Ling Xin and Ling Mo stood back to back, breathing hard. Their eyes met, and they understood each other instantly. They could hold on no longer. They shouted together. Two surges of spirit power erupted. On Ling Xin, the faint purple-black patterns under her skin flared into life, like creeping vines rapidly covering her body. Her eyes went ink-black, radiating a chilling aura. Beneath her feet, one yellow and one purple spirit ring rose, an impossible configuration. Ling Mo's skin turned bright silver with metallic clacks. Golden patterns surfaced across her body. She looked as if cast from silver and threaded with gold, her figure expanding with overwhelming force. She, too, was surrounded by a yellow and a purple spirit ring. The arena exploded. Purple? A second spirit ring? A 1,000-year spirit ring? How is this possible? Spectators stood in stupefied disbelief. Even the two arrogant spirit elders froze. Second spirit ability, neurotoxin. Paralysis spiderweb. Ling Xin's cold voice rang out. The purple ring swelled, and she slammed her palms to the ground. Purple-black silk shot forth like living threads, instantly covering more than half the arena. Tough as steel and laced with a spine-chilling neurotoxin, the webs wrapped around the elders' feet. Their bodies went numb and stiff. Speed and reflexes dropped drastically. "Get free, now!" the tall elder shouted, panic in his voice, but it was too late. Second spirit ability, Broken Star Heavy Armor. First spirit ability, Metal Berserk. Ling Mao roared. Silver and gold light flashed as she clad herself in monstrous armor and slammed into the sluggish elders like a meteor. The result was a massacre. Ling Mo's punches and stomps carried mountain-crushing force. The elders' protective spirit power shattered while bones snapped audibly. Screams and cries for mercy filled the arena. Ling Mao only stopped when the host urgently called the match. The two spirit elders lay slumped, bloodied, and barely breathing. Then the arena erupted in the wildest cheering yet, a chorus of "Heart Eater," "Star Crusher," "Twin Stars," "Invincible." Afterward, Ling Xin removed her mask, guilt and apology written on her face. "I'm sorry, Master. We had to expose our spirit rings." Yu Qing smiled, not reproachful but proud. He reached out and tousled their hair. "You did well, judging the situation and using everything to turn the tide at the critical moment. That's true combat wisdom. Whether you revealed them or not isn't important. Your safety is." Their master's words filled the sisters with warmth and reverence. But as they left the arena, Yu Qing and Aru both sensed faint hostile auras tailing them from the shadows. "Looks like we picked up some annoying flies," Yu Qing said calmly. A cold light flickered in Aru's pink eyes, and she smiled, chilling. "Qing, take the kids back. I'll go clean up a bit." She melted into the night. Shortly after, muffled thuds and screams echoed from a dark alley, and then silence returned. Aru reappeared beside Yu Qing, clapping her hands lightly. "All done. I left one alive to carry a message back to his master. Some things are not for them to covet." Her brief display of spirit rings had been more than enough to intimidate anyone lingering around the arena. Yu Qing nodded and led everyone back safely to the Ice and Fire Yin-Yang well. In the following days, Ling Xin and Ling Mao continued their daily sharpening at the arena, while Yu Qing enjoyed regular special cultivation with Aru and Fox Consort. Life settled into a peaceful rhythm. 2 months slipped by. Early spring still held a chill, but warmth filled the yin-yang well. One day, as Yu Qing was guiding Ling Xin and Ling Mu through combat training, his expression changed. He sensed two extremely faint but achingly familiar life signals, quick, insistent thuds at the edge of perception. "They're about to give birth," he said, and his figure blurred. He reappeared outside the courtyard where Duan Xin and Zi Rui lived. Aru, Fox Consort, Father Duan, Father Z, and the others also felt the shift and hurried over, faces tight with tension and anticipation. Yu Qing stood outside the door, sending his mental force into the room to monitor every moment. His heart hammered with excitement and a thread of worry. Childbirth was always risky, no matter the preparation. Inside came stifled groans from Duan Xin and Zi Rui and the steady voice of the midwife. Time dragged. Yu Qing held his breath, knuckles white. Then, two clear, vigorous cries broke the silence. Wah! Wah! Those infant cries were the sweetest music in the world, melting away every fear. Yu Qing's knees trembled. Tears sprang to his eyes with a force he couldn't hold back. Ding! Detected that Dao companion Duan Xin has successfully given birth to an offspring. This offspring has extraordinary innate talent and a solid foundation. Rewarding host, lifespan plus 50 years. Yin-yang points 100,000. Special chest. Ding! Detected that Dao companion Zi Rui has successfully given birth to an offspring. This offspring has extraordinary innate talent and natural spiritual intelligence. Rewarding host, lifespan plus 50 years. Yin-yang points 100,000. The system notifications chimed helpfully, but they mattered little compared to the two cries. The midwife opened the door, beaming. Congratulations, sect leader, a young master and a young lady. Mother and children are safe. Yu Qing stepped into the room. Duan Xin and Zi Rui were pale and sweating, exhausted but radiant. Each held a tiny infant wrapped in soft swaddling. Yu Qing moved forward with reverent care and took the two warm, wrinkled little lives into his arms. Their features hinted at their parents, tiny mouths moving, eyes still closed, and Yu Qing felt an emotion so deep it left him breathless. These were his children, his bloodline's continuation in the world. Aru, Fox Consort, and the others gathered around, faces soft with wonder. Spring light spilled through the window and bathed the room in a gentle glow. Yu Qing leaned in and pressed a long, grateful kiss to both Duan Xin's and Zi Rui's foreheads, voice full of love. Thank you for your hard work. Duan Xin and Zi Rui gazed down at the wrinkled, astonishingly precious infants in their arms, tired and delighted. They each pressed a light kiss to Yu Qing's cheek, and unable to resist the heavy wave of sleepiness, fell into a deep, entwined slumber. Yu Qing gently took the two children and signaled for everyone else in the room to step outside for a while, leaving just the four of them. He sat at the bedside, cradling the warm, soft bundles. A feeling he could hardly name swelled in him. Wonder, pride, an ache of love. These were his children, the continuation of his bloodline. He adjusted his posture with clumsy care to make them more comfortable. The babies seemed to sense his presence. They didn't fuss. Now and then they lifted their tiny pink hands and made sleepy little noises, their large dark eyes half open, taking in the unfamiliar world and the adult who held them. Yu Qing's heart melted. He brushed their cheeks with the gentlest of touches and murmured useless, affectionate words. He just sat there, savoring the quiet joy of being a new father as if time had slowed for him. He held them like that for almost 4 hours. It wasn't until the afterglow of sunset slanted through the window and bathed the room in warm gold that Duan Xin and Zi Rui stirred. They sat up slowly, and the first thing they saw was Yu Qing by the window, back to them, making little, amusing gestures that made the infants coo. The sight of their usually composed and majestic husband acting silly and doting made the two women smile at one another, hearts overflowing. "Husband, let me hold the baby," Zi Rui said softly, her voice still thin from childbirth. "Hey, I want one too!" Duan Xin reached out impatiently. Yu Qing turned and smiled, then walked over and carefully placed each child into their mother's arms. Duan Xin looked down at the son, who vaguely resembled Yu Qing, and beamed with pride. "It's a boy," she declared. "He'll grow up to be as mighty as his father." Zi Rui looked at the delicate face of her daughter, who looked more like her, and for a moment something akin to wistfulness passed across her features. "It's a girl," she sighed. Yu Qing caught the flicker of emotion and sat on the bed's edge, sliding an arm around Zi Rui's shoulder. His voice was tender and certain. "What's wrong with a girl? Our daughter will be no less than any man. I'll make sure she has everything beautiful in the world." Zi Rui leaned against him, still worried. "But she'll have to marry someday." the thought of her leaving us to live in someone else's house. Yu Qing's gaze sharpened, possessive and protective. Whoever dares to want my daughter had better be prepared. No mere mortal will be worthy of my precious girl. Duanxin laughed and comforted her friend. A daughter is wonderful. She'll be thoughtful and sweet, less trouble than a son. She glanced and thought of the rowdy kids in their circle, Xiao Wu and the spoiled Dugu Yan, and chuckled. You'll see, daughter, you must be quiet and refined. They talked about the children for a long time, future training, temperaments, hopes, bathed in the warm honey of family happiness. Then, as though on cue, both infants opened their mouths at once and cried, Wah! The noise shattered the serenity and sent the three adults into a fluster. Mother Z, experienced and unhurried, appeared at once. She glanced at the crying babies and smiled. They're hungry. Time to nurse. Only then did Yu Qing realize. Duanxin and Zirui's faces flushed as they turned away and unbuttoned their clothes to feed the children. Yu Qing remained on the edge of the bed, watching them with a tender, somewhat guilty attentiveness. He couldn't help noticing how breastfeeding had made their figures softer and fuller. An absurd, flirtatious thought flickered through his mind, and he swallowed. His gaze was far too direct, and both women went red, cheeks and ears burning. Duanxin mustered her courage and, voice barely above a whisper, offered with shy invitation. Husband, if you want, you could. Zirui buried her face and, though ashamed, looked up with a glint of expectation. Yu Qing's own face turned scarlet, and he looked away, coughing to hide his embarrassment. Nonsense! Do you really think I would fight my children for food? The two women laughed at his show of dignity. They knew him too well. He was always a little shameless in private. Husband, Duanxin quickly changed the subject to diffuse the awkwardness. Have you thought of names for them? Yes, names, Zirui echoed, eyes bright. Yu Qing had already thought it through. The boy will be called Dragon Yu. May he be like a hidden dragon rising from the depths to soar through the 9 heavens. And the girl will be Sandalwood Yu, he continued. Sandalwood is precious and fragrant. It endures and its scent spreads. I hope our daughter will be resilient and noble, naturally graceful, living a peaceful, joyful life. Dragon Yu, Sandalwood Yu. The two women repeated the names, affection and approval in their voices. Perfect names, Duanxin said, delighted. Thank you, husband, Zirui added softly. The names were set. Yu Qing stayed until late that night, and when the children finally slept, he rose to leave for his own room. As he stood, a cool hand lightly caught his sleeve. He turned and found Duanxin awake, eyes wet and filled with a mix of affection and desire. Husband. Her voice was thin from childbirth, yet had a hint of invitation. Shall we? Harmonize. Zirui, also awake, slipped her arms around Yu Qing's waist from behind and pressed her cheek against his back. Her voice was soft and pleading. Husband, it's been 9 months. Don't leave tonight, please? A headache prickled the edge of Yu Qing's temples. You two just gave birth. Your bodies are weak. How can you think of that so soon? Duanxin pouted and tugged on his sleeve. Just once? Gentle. Please? Zirui held him tighter and murmured, every syllable folded with longing. Husband. He almost lost his temper under their combined sweetness, but had to reason aloud. What about the children? Who will watch them tonight? Duanxin smiled sheepishly. Mother Z will take them. Zirui added softly. Mother said she'll take them tonight so we can rest. Yu Qing realized with mingled amusement and exasperation that the pair had planned this. Even the logistics had been arranged. He surrendered with a sigh and a softened smile. Fine. Tonight only once. Understood? They nodded and lit up at his concession. Mother Z returned, picked up the sleeping infants with delighted fondness, and gave a long, indulgent sigh. Sect leader, be gentle tonight. They just gave birth. Yu Qing blushed but promised, I know my limits. The door closed. Alone together, the atmosphere turned tender. Yu Qing gathered the two women into his arms with slow, reverent movements, treating them like fragile treasures. Tonight is only to help you recover your origin qi and consolidate your foundation, he murmured. No greed, understand? We'll listen to husband, they replied, and kissed him sweetly. That night, he was exceptionally gentle. The exchange of life force was a soft, healing current, nourishing their depleted bodies, repairing subtle internal damage, and warming their meridians and spirits. After 2 deeply restorative yin-yang harmonizations, neither felt drained. Instead, they were warmed through, enlivened, as if soaking in a soothing spring. Some postpartum weakness melted away. Their spirit power even felt denser and more refined. They lay in his arms, flushed and content, eyes bright with satisfaction. Qing then produced 2 long-prepared gifts from his spirit tool. He gave Duanxin a dark gold classic, Heavenly Dragon Transformation, its cover patterned like dragon scales and radiating a vast, ancient prestige. To Zirui, he handed a purple treasure, the Star Spirit Pearl, its interior seeming to hold countless glittering stars and a quiet, powerful suction. "What is this?" Zirui asked, cradling the pearl and feeling the star force inside. Qing explained with a small smile. "The Star Spirit Pearl is an extremely rare natural treasure. After it's refined, your purple cloud vine spirit will be able to actively absorb star power and condense a spiritual fruit called the Star Spirit Fruit within itself. If a spirit master below the Spirit King level consumes such a fruit, it can increase their spirit power by 1 to 2 levels unconditionally. If the fruit is absorbed by a plant-type spirit of the same origin, it can slightly raise that spirit's quality, effective only for intermediate and lower spirits, up to high-level quality. If nourished by star power for a long time, who knows what even stronger fruits might be born." Zirui's eyes sparkled. She hugged the Star Spirit Pearl like a treasure and could already imagine low-level disciples of the yin-yang sect growing quickly because of it, and the possibility of her own spirit evolving. Duanxin had read the Heavenly Dragon Transformation's description and was stunned by the promise of 9 transformations into a dragon. She looked at Qing, voice trembling with excitement. "Husband, this cultivation method, could it really let me become a true dragon?" Qing nodded. "Yes, it's a secret transmission of the dragon clan. If you persist, you could shed your mortal coil, become a true dragon, and rise to great power." "You're the best!" Duanxin threw herself at him, kisses and bites of exuberant gratitude. If not for his firm rule that tonight was only once, she might not have been able to contain herself. Zirui suddenly looked thoughtful and asked, "You gave us such precious things. What about you?" Qing's chest warmed. "Foolish girl. Of course I saved better things for myself. Don't worry." Reassured, the 2 women relaxed fully into his embrace, basking in the certainty of his love. Qing outlined the next steps. "After you've fully recovered and are at your best, I'll take Shiner to hunt for a spirit ring. Once Shiner gets her 6th ring, I'll use stored resources to boost both of you directly to spirit power level 70. Then I'll help you condense a spirit core and promote you to Spirit Saint." The word lit their faces with a brilliance that had once seemed beyond reach. Spirit Saint, an unimaginable height, suddenly felt attainable with his help. "We'll follow whatever you arrange," they said together, voices full of trust. Qing had further plans. Once their spirit power and mental strength were strong enough, he might try to let them contract spirit souls. 7 days passed. Nourished by the Thousand Refinements Method, medicinal meals, and Qing's life force, Duanxin and Zirui had passed the worst of the postpartum period. Their complexions were rosy, spirits high, and the spirit power in their bodies more refined and active. Duanxin's spirit power had reached the level 60 bottleneck, 1 suitable spirit ring away from a breakthrough. Zirui had climbed to level 66, her foundation rock solid. 72. Yin-Yang Reversal Technique. Before setting off for the Star Do Great Forest with Duanxin and Zirui to hunt for spirit rings, Qing spent several days putting the yin-yang sect's affairs in order. First was care for the 2 newborns. Dragon Yu and Sandalwood Yu were now treasures of the whole sect. Whoever they were entrusted to had to be utterly reliable. After careful thought, Qing gave the responsibility to Mother Z. Gentle, experienced, and Zirui's biological mother, she would undoubtedly dote on the infants. When Qing asked, Mother Z accepted happily, cradling her 2 grandchildren and refusing to put them down. Second was the continued training of the 2 sisters, Lingxin and Lingmu. Qing already knew their medicinal bath and medicinal cuisine recipes by heart. He prepared 2 months' worth of ingredients and provisions, sorted and packaged them, and handed everything to the logistics disciples with instructions to prepare the sisters' daily supplies on time and in the correct amounts. escorting the sisters to the Heaven Do Great Spirit Arena for their daily spirit combat tempering, fell to Douluo Bo. The poisoned Douluo had resolved his spirit backlash, his strength was improving steadily, and he was in high spirits, so he readily agreed. With a titled Douluo like him, covertly watching over them, the sisters would be safe in Heaven, Do City, and petty troublemakers would think twice. Finally, and most important for the sect's future, recruitment and expansion, Qing entrusted the task entirely to the steady, experienced Father Duan and Father Z and set clear requirements. 1. Innate soul power, at least level 1. He didn't expect geniuses, but everyone needed basic cultivation aptitude. 2. Background, preference for children from common families or abandoned children of spirit master households, those who would cherish the opportunity and whose loyalty could be nurtured. 3. Age, no older than 12. Youth is more malleable and better suited to the yin-yang sect's philosophy and training system. 4. Number, initially 100. The sect was less than a year old. Resources, teachers, and experience were limited. Slow, careful growth, prioritizing quality, was better than blind expansion. Father Duan and Father Z accepted their orders and went to scout suitable candidates. After another half-month of final confirmations and adjustments, Qing ensured everything was running smoothly, quietly left the Ice and Fire Yin-Yang Well, and set out south for spirit hunting with Duanxin and Zi Rui, both adjusted to peak condition. Just as the three stepped beyond the sunset forest's edge, Qing paused, rubbed his brow, and muttered in slight annoyance. Zi Rui, perceptive as always, asked, "What's wrong, husband? Is something the matter?" Qing smiled helplessly. His mental force had already sensed two figures trailing them, carefully hiding but unable to escape his notice. "It's a Ru and Fox consort. They've been following us secretly." Duanxin's eyes lit up. "Then, should we wait for them?" Qing shook his head. "No, if they wanted to tag along, let them. I suppose they couldn't bear, well, being left behind was too boring." He knew the real reason. Neither wanted to endure months of abstinence. The pleasures and benefits of yin-yang conjunction dual cultivation had long since given them a taste. So the party, 3 openly, 5 in truth, moved toward the Stardo Great Forest in a peculiar formation, close enough to travel together but far enough apart to keep appearances. Qing had to make a stop at the sea to hunt, and he wanted to secure suitable spirit rings for Duanxin as quickly as possible. They didn't loiter. They traveled fast and only stopped in towns every 5 days for their unshakable lessons, booking rooms and engaging in deep and necessary cultivation exchanges. Along the way, a recurring, amusing, and troublesome pattern emerged. Whenever Qing finished harmonic cultivation with Duanxin and Zi Rui to complete the yin-yang conjunction, and they had compacted and purified their spirit power or fallen asleep, his window would be tapped lightly. Opening it, he would find either a Ru with a sly smile or Fox consort with a flushed face and shy eyes. The two women always had some excuse to quietly steal him out of the room and drag him to the room they'd booked for themselves to continue another special form of cultivation. Under pretexts like a Qing mustn't favor one over the other, sharing the love evenly, or replenishing the origin qi spent on the road, Qing fell into a 3-day cycle. Travel hard by day, yin-yang conjunction with Duanxin and Zi Rui in the evening, then get conscripted by a Ru or Fox consort late at night, and start the next morning all over again. Even with his life attribute titled Douluo Constitution and Rapid Recovery, the repetition wore on him. His waist and knees ached, his energy flagged. One night, slipping quietly back into the room he shared with Duanxin and Zi Rui, he glanced at his reflection, still handsome but tired, and bemoaned to the heavens, "Damn, I can barely handle 4. If the number of companions keeps growing, I'll really be done for." At that moment, he wished the system could boost his endurance in that area. If it could guarantee him stamina, what would he fear? Perhaps the system sensed his desperate wish. The usually cool, impassive machine answered. Ding! Detected the host's strong and special request. Based on the core rules of the Tao Companion system, a special limited shop is temporarily opened for the host. This shop will appear only once and will not return. Choose carefully. Qing's spirits jumped. He dove into the system space. Next to the regular shop, a temporary icon bathed in an ambiguous pink light had appeared. He clicked. The product list refreshed, every item strange and eyebrow-raising. I love a stick of wood, little blue version. Greatly increases combat power in a specific area after consumption. Duration, 12 hours. Price, 1,000 yin-yang points. Unyielding Golden Spear. Temporarily grants the Unyielding Golden Spear talent. Valid for 3 uses. Price, 5,000 yin-yang points. 7 times a night man. Wearing grants a mild psychological suggestion, slightly boosting self-confidence. Price, 8,000 yin-yang points. Source of Vitality, slightly increases physical endurance recovery speed. Price, 20,000 yin-yang points. Yu Qing's mouth twitched. What were these things? Did he, Yu Qing, need gimmicks and hollow titles to keep up? He skimmed past the low-tier goods and stopped at the bottom of the list, where a haze of chaotic light swirled around the most expensive item of all. Yin Extreme Reverse Yang Art, Special Dual Cultivation Secret Method. Introduction. Heaven and earth are divided into yin and yang. Solitary yin cannot give birth. Lone yang cannot grow. Yet when yin reaches its extreme, yang is born. Out of the depths of misfortune comes blessing. This art is profound, not a crude technique of stealing and supplementing, but a truly supreme method. At the peak of pleasure and the realm of extreme yin, the practitioner glimpses a sliver of innate yang harmony, drawing it in to nourish the self and temper the origin. The richer the experience and the deeper the insight, the stronger the endurance, recovery, and combat power become. In a true sense, the more one fights, the stronger one grows endlessly. When practiced to major achievement, yin and yang circulate without end, making one like a perpetual motion machine. Price, 359,000 yin-yang points. Yu Qing's eyes shone. This was exactly what he needed. The description, the philosophy, this matched his requirements perfectly. Not temporary boosts or external props, but a fundamental ability that grew with practice. Though the price was astronomical and would almost drain the yin-yang points he'd painstakingly accumulated for months, Yu Qing didn't hesitate. Buy. I must buy it. Ding. Purchase successful. Deducted 359,000 yin-yang points. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the special secret method, Yin Extreme Reverse Yang Art. It has been automatically transferred to the host's sea of consciousness. Seeing his points plunge to nearly 0, Yu Qing flinched and cursed. Profiteering system. So ruthless. But when he calmed himself and began to carefully comprehend the method already uploaded into his mind, the pain vanished and was replaced by astonishment. The secret was deeper and more powerful than he'd imagined. It wasn't mere plundering. At the peak moment of extreme yin during dual cultivation, it captured a thread of innate yang harmony that arises from the void, using it to nourish one's life, origin, expand one's yang qi, and temper the spirit. Every deep session was an excavation and sublimation of potential. Its effects weren't limited to one skill. This method enhanced him holistically. It even greatly benefited his Thousand Refinements Method and Star-Burning Battle Method. Worth it. So worth it, Yu Qing breathed. The 359,000 points suddenly felt well spent. He returned to his room, sat cross-legged, and plunged into initial cultivation using the Yin Extreme Reverse Yang Art. From then on, his life changed dramatically. In every deep exchange, he no longer passively endured or merely enjoyed. He operated the technique actively, guiding the process. The results were immediate and astonishing. He grew stronger as each session progressed. In gentle moments with Duan Xin and Zi Rui, or in intense encounters with Aru and Fox Consort, he handled everything with ease, growing more formidable with every clash. Even Aru, who had sometimes bested him before, could no longer contend with him, even when paired with Fox Consort. Often after a special session, Yu Qing felt not drained but invigorated, full spirit power, a radiant spirit, as if he'd been tempered and nourished. The next day, he could still travel at full strength, brimming with energy. In contrast, the 4 women, Duan Xin, Zi Rui, Aro, and Fox Consort, were frequently lethargic afterward, needing time to recover their breath. Their looks toward Yu Qing grew full of love, satisfaction, and a little awestruck disbelief. Husband seems to be getting stronger and stronger. Yeah, like he's a different person. But I really like it. Yu Qing finally understood what it meant to stand up and take charge. The yin extreme reverse yang art was indeed marvelous and peerless. With their happy routine of traveling and cultivating, the group of five at last crossed the vast lands and arrived at their destination, the Star-Do Great Forest. The vast, primeval bulk of the Star-Do Great Forest lay before them like a sleeping primordial beast. Its dense, ancient aura pressed on the five travelers with a constant sense of danger. Yu Qing's gaze sharpened as he spoke quietly to the two women at his side. "Shiner, Rui, our goal is deep in the mixed zone. The risks in there are far greater than out here." Duanxin and Zirui exchanged solemn looks and nodded. They both knew the mixed zone's terrors. Spirit beasts older and far stronger, perhaps even those at the 100,000-year level. The crimson-eyed burst dragon whose ring Duanxin had taken before had been only an inhabitant of the mixed zone's fringe. To be safe, Yu Qing extended his mental force like invisible tendrils, tapping a precise point in the void realm. A moment later, two slight figures stepped out somewhat sheepishly from a hiding place, Aru and the fox consort, who had been secretly following them. "Since you've followed us so far, come along so we can watch each other's backs," Yu Qing said with a helpless smile. Aru stuck out her tongue and tugged the still hesitant fox consort forward. The four women looked at one another, and the air between them grew a little charged. Duanxin's eyes flicked teasingly between Aru and the fox consort, a mischievous smile on her lips. Zirui covered her mouth, her eyes bright with amusement, as if to say, "Still thinking about dual cultivation with your husband, are you?" Aru blushed and looked away. The fox consort's ears flushed red, and she wished the ground would swallow her. Yu Qing cleared his throat and broke the awkwardness. "All right, business first. Let's go." He led them like a sword through the endless green. The four women followed, spirit power flickering over their bodies as they scanned the forest. They moved fast, the tens and hundreds-year spirit beasts on the outskirts scattered at their presence. Soon, they slipped past the outer zone and into the mixed zone. The trees grew taller and denser until the sun was nearly blotted out. Spirit power in the air grew heavy. Roars that carried the weight of ancient beasts echoed through the woods. 10,000-year creatures became common. Their pace eased, but they still made efficient progress. Yu Qing's mental force acted as a precise radar, sweeping a 1,000-mile radius, avoiding needless trouble while searching for a suitable target for Duanxin. Their aim was clear: a dragon-type, fire attribute spirit beast for Duanxin, at least 35,000 years old. Dragon types were rare. Fire dragons with explosive power were rarer still. They searched day after day. Yu Qing found many powerful fire and strength-type beasts, even a rare 40,000-year crimson demon mastiff, potential backup if they failed to find the perfect match. But he persisted, seeking the ideal ring for Duanxin. On the 23rd day in the forest, after 7 days and nights of meticulous searching, Yu Qing's mental force finally locked onto a unique, potent fluctuation. Pure, scorching fire mingled with an ancient, regal bloodline pressure. "Found it!" Yu Qing's eyes lit up. "Northeast, about 200 miles, dragon type, fire attribute, at least 40,000 years old." They moved stealthily toward that direction. Soon a crimson valley appeared ahead, the air shimmering with heat. At its center, a vast lava pool burbled, the smell of sulfur thick. Beside it, a colossal creature lay half buried in the earth, as large as a hill. Its back was covered by a massive shell of black, cooled lava, veins of dark red light tracing its cracks like flowing magma. Its head was dragon-like, a thick dark red horn between its brows. Pillar-thick limbs ended in sharp claws. Its tail wasn't a thin whip, but a gigantic flaming meteor hammer-shaped bony club. "This is a red hell dragon tortoise," Yu Qing whispered, excitement in his voice. "A very rare dragon hybrid. It combines fire comparable to ultimate fire with the defense of an earth dragon. Its fire explosiveness is enormous, and its defense is nearly unmatched. Its only real weakness is speed. This one's over 40,000 years old. Shiner, your luck is incredible. It's basically made for you." Duanxin stared at the immense beast, pressure rolling off it in waves, and felt anticipation and excitement well up. But Yu Qing warned, "Wait here. Do not approach." In an instant, he vanished and reappeared above the tortoise like a ghost. The beast sensed him and gave a thunderous roar. With a swing of that meteor hammer tail, the tortoise struck with the force of 10,000 tons and scorching flames aimed straight at Yu Qing. Yu Qing didn't manifest any spirit aura. He simply raised a hand. Boom! The meteor hammer smashed into an invisible barrier with a blast that shook the valley. The tortoise's body sank into the earth from the force. Its limbs dug into the ground. It struggled, snarled, and tried to breathe fire, but the space around it seemed locked, its movements sluggish and difficult. Yu Qing descended and stood on the tortoise's lava-hardened shell like a god. He leaned forward, fingers shaped like a blade, condensing spirit power into a point and piercing the relatively softer scales at the beast's neck. A wound opened. Dark blood flowed. "Shiner, come here," he said calmly. Duan flew forward. Seeing the mighty beast subdued beneath her husband's feet, she felt the full measure of his power. She took the tri-edged military spike Yu Qing had prepared long before, set it against the wound, breathed in, and drove it home with everything she had. The spike struck true, ravaging the central nervous system. The red-helled dragon tortoise gave a final, mournful cry. Its massive body convulsed and then stilled. A deep black spirit ring condensed from the corpse, exuding a majestic, dragonic pressure. "Start absorbing it, Shiner. I'll be your protector," Yu Qing said softly. Duan sat cross-legged and began to draw the 40,000-year spirit ring into herself. The process was brutal. The ring's power was vast and domineering, its fire attribute fierce, and the dragon pressure assailing her mind and meridians. She turned pale, her body trembled, and a trace of blood leaked from her mouth. Yu Qing had prepared. He activated his life domain, letting a dense life aura wash over her, repairing the scorched meridians. He gave her a lotus leaf that glowed with holy golden light, his sixth soul skill, the unbreakable golden lotus leaf, to bolster her defense and will. During her pregnancy, he had also fed Duan innumerable top-grade medicinal dishes that had strengthened her foundation. Those medicinal effects had settled and reinforced her endurance. With these supports, though she suffered terribly, her foundation held and she did not collapse. A long day and night passed. When the blood-black ring finally fused perfectly with her, a fierce surge of spirit power rolled through her. Rank 61, 63, 65, 67. Her spirit power rocketed, settling at rank 67, almost on par with Zirui. Duan opened her eyes, feeling the new strength and the spirit ability granted by her sixth ring. Joy and disbelief swept her face. She leaped up and flung herself into Yu Qing's arms, laughing like a child. "Husband, a 40,000-year sixth soul ring. I did it!" "Yes, Shiner is the best," Yu Qing murmured, stroking her hair, pride warming him too. "It's all thanks to your husband that you and Sister Rui are where you are." Duan buried her face in his chest, voice full of reliance and happiness. Zirui stepped forward with heartfelt congratulations and a touch of envy. "Congratulations, Sister Shiner." After a brief celebration, Zirui asked, "Husband, are we going straight back to the ice and fire yin-yang well?" Yu Qing shook his head and smiled at Aro instead. "Aro, take us to the Lake of Life. I want to make a deal with Daming and Erming." Aro's pink eyes flickered with surprise, but she smiled. "All right, Qing, follow me." With Aru guiding the way and Yu Qing bringing up the rear, the group changed course toward the Lake of Life, the most mysterious heart of the Stardow Great Forest. Aru knew the area well and steered them clear of powerful territories. 3 hours later, the Lake of Life appeared, suffused with an almost tangible life aura. The water was clear, but glowed an emerald green, spirals of living energy drifting above it. Just standing by the shore refreshed the soul. Spirit circulation quickened. "Is this the Lake of Life?" Duan and Zirui whispered, both seeing it for the first time and struck by its fairy tale beauty. Yu Qing felt moved as well. The lake's life energy was pure and ancient, nearly rivaling his own life barrier, the ice and fire yin-yang. Well, the Lake of Life and the legendary Qiangkun love-questioning valley were indeed the three great wonders of the Douluo Continent. They had barely taken in the sight when the center of the lake roiled. With a great splash, two enormous figures rose, bringing suffocating pressure with them. The left was a bull-headed serpent cloaked in bluish-black scales, its body so vast, its tail vanished into the water, huge blue eyes like bottomless cold springs. Sky Azure Bull Python, Da Ming. The right was a mountain of muscle covered in black fur, yellow eyes burning like lanterns. the Titan giant ape, Erming. At the sight of the forest emperors Duanshin, Ziruyi, and the fox consort paled and instinctively stepped behind Yu Qing. Only Aru remained forward. "You're back, Aunt Ro." Erming's massive voice rumbled, simple joy like distant thunder. Ming's gaze locked on Yu Qing with cool scrutiny. "Aunt Ro, secrets of the Lake of Life must not be revealed lightly to humans." Aru flew in front of them, smiling. "Ming, Erming, don't be alarmed. This is Qing. He's my partner." She blushed at the last word. "Partner?" Both beast kings widened their eyes and stared. Erming with frank curiosity, Ming with a more complicated look of suspicion and disapproval. "Aunt Ro, humans are cunning and fickle," Ming rumbled uneasily. "It's fine." Aru waved him off with certainty. "Qing is different. He would never leak the lake's secrets. I vouch for him with my life." Ming hesitated, swaying his massive head, then finally said, "Very well. If Aunt Ru guarantees it, I will trust this human for now." His look toward Yu Qing, however, remained guarded. Erming broke the tension with a direct question. "Aunt Ru, did you come for something?" Yu Qing stepped forward on Aru's cue, floating level with the two beasts and smiling politely. "Forest Emperors, I'm Yu Qing. I came to propose a trade." "A trade?" Ming's voice carried the weight of curiosity. "What do you wish to trade, human?" "I heard from Xiao Wu that over your long watch of the Lake of Life, you've collected many spirit bones left by powerful spirit beasts," Yu Qing said. "I'd like to exchange some items useful to you for a few spirit bones suitable for those with me." Erming nodded without hesitation. "Sure, those shiny bones are useless to us anyway." Ming, more cautious, fixed Yu Qing with a stare and asked slowly, "Human, what do you intend to offer? Ordinary goods won't catch our interest." Chapter 74. Heavenly Tribulation, Trade and Life Baptism. Facing the probing, incredulous gaze of the Sky Azure Bull Python Ming, Yu Qing wore a calm, confident smile. He spoke slowly, his voice steady but thunderous in the ears of the two great beast kings. "My trade is this. I will help both of you safely pass your heavenly tribulation." "What?" The Titan giant ape Ming's huge yellow eyes bulged like lanterns. His enormous frame trembled with shock. "Help us pass the heavenly tribulation?" "Human, do you know what you're saying?" Ming was more composed, but a storm flickered in his deep blue eyes. He lowered his massive head and stared at Yu Qing, his voice low and grave. "Human, I don't know where you learned that spirit beasts must undergo a heavenly tribulation, but you know nothing of its power. 100,000-year spirit beasts with elite bloodlines faced a tribulation far stronger than those of ordinary beasts. It was a force capable of annihilating heaven and earth. For that reason, they had to constantly restrain their cultivation and slowly accumulate power, delaying the tribulation's arrival. It was the most terrifying test on their path of advancement. How many brilliant members of their race had been struck down by it? Ming's tone was not contemptuous, but born of deep, ancient fear. "You're a human titled Douluo. Even if you're strong, how can you promise to help beings like us survive the tribulation?" Yu Qing offered no further argument. Some things were better shown than explained. With a thought, his spirit power swelled and billowed out. One by one, 9 spirit rings rose from beneath his feet, each ringing with restrained power. Among them were rings whose age and resonance were shockingly deep. The sight of those unusually ancient rings made both Ming and Erming's pupils shrink. 7th spirit ability, Life Golden Leaf True Body, Yu Qing called. The 7th ring flared brilliantly. A boundless, pure life aura erupted from him like a volcanic blast. His body seemed to become a living wellspring, radiating a warm, golden-green light. Life energy so dense it seemed almost liquid descended like fine rain within the radius of his life domain. The soil beneath his feet quivered with vitality. Grass sprouted and greened at a visible speed. Saplings leapt up and unfurled into several-meter trees in a matter of breaths. Where he stood, barren ground became fertile, and he looked like a walking sacred spring. Ming and Erming were stunned. From that dense life aura, they felt a longing, a pulse from the very origin of life itself, an instinctive urge to consume and absorb. Had reason not held, and had they not suspected Yu Qing's power, they might have opened their huge mouths and swallowed him whole. Bathed in the life radiance, Yu Qing's voice was calm and utterly confident. "This is my martial soul true body. In this state, I form a life domain centered on me. Allies inside the domain receive a continuous, nearly endless infusion of vitality. As long as my spirit power isn't exhausted, companions within the domain have something like an immortal body. Grave injuries can be healed instantly. With the aid of the gift of the goddess of life, his spirit had further evolved, and the life domain's effect had grown more than tenfold. With the domain combined with the lake of life here, Yu Qing was 90% certain he could help Da Ming and Ming through the tribulation. Silence fell, heavy and absolute. Da Ming and Ming's gazes met, shock and faintly, wild joy showing in both. They had lived many ages and could sense how close Yu Qing's life domain came to the very origin of the law of life. Under such protection, perhaps surviving the tribulation was truly possible. After a moment's weighing, Da Ming raised his head. His voice trembled with determination. Very well. Yu Qing, human, we accept your trade. All spirit bones in the cave will become yours. Excellent. Ming beat his massive chest in celebration. Yu Qing smiled. A wise choice. Don't delay. Prepare yourselves and trigger the heavenly tribulation. Without hesitation, Da Ming and Ming submerged into the waters of the lake of life. They needed to swallow and refine the energy they had accumulated for years to elevate themselves to the peak and trigger the tribulation. The spirit bones they had collected became the best fuel. One after another, they swallowed spirit bones humming with power and refined them into pure spirit accumulation. For 3 days they worked, consuming nearly half the cave's reserves. Their auras swelled like volcanoes about to erupt. On the evening of the 3rd day, they surfaced again. They seemed larger. The spirit power around them was almost solidified into pressure. Da Ming spat out a pile of brilliant objects. Yu Qing, these are our remaining spirit bones. 16 pieces. As promised, they're yours. Ming followed, and before Yu Qing lay a small mountain of spirit bones emitting halos and strong energy fluctuations. As his mental force swept over them, joy rose in him. 5 top-tier 90,000-year bones, 7 80,000-year bones, and 4 other high-quality bones from beasts over 40,000 years old. Yu Qing stored the hoard in his spirit tool and turned to the 2 great beast kings, solemn. Are you ready? They nodded, heavy and resolute. Yu Qing activated the life golden leaf true body again. A denser golden-green light bloomed, and he compressed his life domain into a precise radius of 100 zhang. The concentration of life energy inside leapt to a shocking level. A rain of emerald droplets, condensed from pure life energy, began to fall, a rain of life. Those inside felt warmth and comfort. Fox Consort tilted her pretty face up and eagerly soaked the droplets, her spirit power visibly increased. At that rate, she might advance a full level in an hour. Yu Qing watched her with a smile and addressed the 2 great beast kings. You may begin. Da Ming and Ming looked up and roared. From their heads, 2 pillars of spirit power shot into the sky, piercing the clouds. The weather twisted, black clouds rolled in, and silver lightning, as thick as pythons, cracked through them. The heavenly tribulation had come. 2 titanic lightning pillars, each more than 100 meters across, tore down like the spear of judgment and struck the 2 beasts. They howled in pain. Lightning flashed, scales and fur blackened and split, flesh charred and fell away. The lightning lashed through meridians, muscles, even bones. 100,000-year spirit beasts' single lightning tribulation could incinerate most such beasts. For elite bloodlines, it was even more terrible. The lightning hammered them as if to erase them from the world. At the same time, Yu Qing's life domain and the lake of life poured life energy into them. Carbonized tissue sloughed away and new, sturdier flesh grew in its place. Torn meridians were rejoined and widened, cracked bones were healed and made stronger. Destruction and rebirth alternated in a grotesque, miraculous tug-of-war within the domain. Da Ming and Ming endured unimaginable pain. Their consciousnesses blurred, yet a warm, powerful force clung to their lives, dragging them back from the brink. Time stretched. Half an hour, 1 hour. The lightning showed no sign of easing. Their bodies were grotesque, bones exposed, but the light in their eyes intensified. In the crucible of pain, their bodies were transforming. New flesh and bones took on far greater power, their souls condensing and strengthening under the tribulation's baptism. After a full 2 hours, the lightning pillars began to wane and finally dissipated. The black clouds scattered and the sky cleared. By the lake's shore, the two great beast kings lay collapsed, charred and steaming, wounds and exposed bone everywhere. Their auras were withered, but they were alive, and inside them a new, majestic vitality surged forth. Qing maintained the life domain, pouring in life energy for another half-hour until their injuries had mostly healed and the new power led their recovery. Only then did he withdraw his martial soul true body. Not only Daming and Ming benefited, Aru, Duanxin, and Zirui gained from the domain's afterglow, their spirit power improving. The biggest gain was Fox Consort. After 2 hours inside the domain, her spirit power rose 2 whole levels to level 57. Even more miraculously, the ages of her first 5 spirit rings increased by at least 200 years each. Aru marveled. A Qing's life domain is so much stronger than before. Duanxin grinned. I can feel my foundation solidifying. For my 7th ring, I might even try absorbing a bone from a beast over 70,000 years old. Zirui stroked her chin and suggested boldly, Husband, when we return, why not activate the life domain at the Ice and Fire Yin-Yang well more often? It would benefit everyone's cultivation. Qing's heart stirred. She was right. Though it consumed a great deal, his current spirit recovery speed meant he could afford to activate it occasionally. After catching their breath, Daming and Ming struggled to their feet. They still looked battered, but their gaze was keener and the pressure they exuded had strengthened. Gratitude and a hint of awe shone in their eyes. Qing, thank you. Daming's voice was low and sincere. If not for you, my brother and I might have wasted many more years or fallen to the tribulation. We won't forget this kindness. Qing waved it off. We each got what we needed. Your advancement, my spirit bones. Fair enough. Daming bowed his massive head. From now on, I, the Sky Azure Bull Python, recognize you as Aunt Rue's partner. If you ever need anything, send word. My brother and I will not refuse. Right, just say the word. Ming boomed, beating his chest. Aru chatted with them a while longer, urging rest and consolidation. Then, under Qing's lead, the group of 5 left the Lake of Life and set off together. 75, heading toward the sea. The expedition to the Stardo Great Forest had been a stunning success. The harvest exceeded every expectation. Duanxin had managed to absorb the spirit ring of the 40,000-year red hell dragon turtle, pushing her spirit power up to rank 67 and significantly increasing her strength. Qing had parlayed the favor of helping the 2 great forest emperors undergo their tribulations into 16 high-quality 10,000-year spirit bones, some rare pieces approaching the 100,000-year level. It was the kind of haul any force would envy. But Qing's journey was far from finished. He still needed a 3rd spirit ring for his 2nd spirit, Black Star Sinking Abyss, and that ring lay far away, out in the vast sea. His target was the evil Orca, not just the 100,000-year evil spirit Orca king, but the whole evil Orca clan. In the original story, Tang San had faced an evil Orca group numbering well over 300, and roughly half were more than 10,000 years old. Qing intended to strike fast and ruthlessly at the king and the high-ranking members, harvesting their high-age spirit rings to fuse into a new vicious beast-level spirit ring for himself. Leaving the Stardo Great Forest, Qing paused and looked at the 4 women beside him. He asked gently, The next place I'm going is dangerous. Why don't you go back to the Icefire Yin-Yang well and wait for me there? Zirui's beautiful eyes flickered with worry. You won't come back with us, husband? She asked softly. Qing nodded, his gaze fixed toward the west, as if he could see across the world to the blue ocean. I'll go to Vast Sea City, then venture out to hunt in the deep sea. Aru's pink eyes brightened with understanding. So that's the plan. Duanxin didn't hesitate. She threw her arms around Qing's arm, her eyes alight with excitement. The sea? I've never seen the sea. Take me, husband. I want to see it. Zirui added softly, If possible, I'd like to help, husband. Qing's heart warmed at their eagerness, but he shook his head. You can come with me to Vast Sea City, but you won't be helping me hunt spirit beasts. He let his gaze sweep across the 4 women and paused on Aru, the strongest among them. Even you, Aru, 96th rank spirit power, going up against that evil Orca force, I can't guarantee your safety. Aru's fine brows drew together, a flash of defiance on her face. A Qing, are you underestimating me? With my strength, if there's a 100,000-year spirit beast in that group, I could at least protect myself, right? Yu Qing's expression turned serious. That evil orca group is nowhere near ordinary. They've got a 100,000-year evil spirit orca king, and their numbers exceed 300. More than half of them have cultivated for over 10,000 years. They fight in coordinated units, and in the sea they're in their element, ferocious. Once surrounded, even a super duo could very likely be killed. At that, Duanshin, Zirui, and Fox Consort all blanched, and even Aru fell silent, a pale horror flashing in her pink eyes. Over 150 10,000-year sea creatures plus a 100,000-year king, such force was not to be taken head-on. Seeing their fear, Yu Qing smiled and took a more relaxed tone. Don't worry too much. If I can't beat them, I can run. With my speed and methods, retreat is no problem. Since you want to come, treat it as a rare trip to the seaside. Vast Sea City is the Heaven Du Empire's largest port city. It has unique scenery. You'll like it. Relieved, their worries eased into curiosity and anticipation. With Yu Qing around, what was there to fear? Even if they couldn't join the hunt, simply being at his side and seeing the boundless sea would be a rare joy. All right, we're going on a trip, Duanxin crowed, bubbling with renewed energy. I'll listen to my husband, Zirui said softly. Aru and Fox Consort nodded too, eyes bright with longing for the unknown. They didn't set off immediately. They stopped at a small town near the Stardew Great Forest. After nearly a month living on the forest floor, eating, sleeping, and staying constantly vigilant, even spirit masters felt worn out. They needed a proper wash. Yu Qing booked 2 superior rooms in the best inn in town. As soon as they closed the door, the pent-up passion of the past month erupted. Before Yu Qing could even step into the bathroom, 4 pairs of affectionate, desirous eyes locked onto him. Duanshin pounced first, clinging to him like a koala and whispering in his ear in a charming voice. Husband, it's been a month. Isn't it time to harmonize? Zirui hugged him gently from behind, cheek against his back. You'll have to work hard tonight, husband. Aru tugged him toward the inner bathroom, her eyes bright with impatience. Less talk. Let's cultivate first. Fox Consort, shy and flushed, buried her face in the pillow and waited quietly as Aru and Yu Qing took the lead. What followed was a long, intimate night of dual cultivation, a reunion of bodies and spirit after a month apart. It wasn't until noon the next day, sunlight pouring into the room, that the night's activities finally wound down. Duanshin clung to his arm, voice thick and teasingly resentful. Husband, you're getting so strong. The 4 of us together couldn't even beat you. Zirui lay limp on the other side, her eyes foggy. Secretly, she mused, sigh. Maybe I should find 1 or 2 more sisters for husband. Otherwise, I really can't handle it. Fox Consort didn't want to move a finger, her pretty face buried in a pillow as she let out muffled complaints. Aru, sore but excited, was already scheming how to counterattack next time. Yu Qing used the power of life to ease their soreness and help them refine the yin-yang energies accumulated during the night. After washing and enjoying a late lunch, the group finally left the small town and officially set out for Vast Sea City. Perhaps because the previous night had been so intense, the 4 women remained a bit subdued, needing time to compress and purify the superficial spirit power left by dual cultivation. They fell into a temporary sage mode and were unusually well-behaved along the way. They traveled fast. Yu Qing led, the 4 women followed closely, 5 streaks of different colors sweeping across the plains of the Balak Kingdom, cutting through the expanse of Fasinuo Province and across the desolate magnificence of the Fasinuo Great Wilderness. In just half a month, a boundless blue appeared at the horizon. Look, the sea! The sharp-eyed Duanshin cried first. They looked up. Far off, where sky met water, the sea and sky merged into a single sheet of azure. A damp, slightly salty breeze blew against their faces, carrying a freedom and vastness unlike the mainland. So big and so blue. Zirui breathed, eyes reflecting the ocean. Fox Consort inhaled deeply, the novelty written in her narrow, foxy eyes. Aru, composed on the surface, couldn't hide the tiny smile tugging at her lips. Yu Qing pointed to a distant, massive architectural complex along the coastline. That's Vast Sea City, the Heaven Du Empire's largest coastal port. That's where we're headed. They quickened pace, and soon the coastal metropolis rose before them. White city walls traced the shoreline, buildings of varied styles packed inside, domes and towers with a nautical flavor, towering lighthouses, and a giant port jutting into the sea. Masts crowded the harbor like a forest. Ships of all sizes bobbed and tied up, creating a bustling scene. The city's clamor blended with the sea's majesty, alive and vibrant. The five entered Vast Sea City like ordinary travelers. Immediately, the place felt exotic. Shops lined the streets, selling coral, shellcrafts, dried seafood, unfamiliar spices, spirit tools, and nautical gear. People dressed in bright, loose maritime fashions. Sailors came and went. The air was a mix of salt, fish, and cooking aromas. So lively! Nothing like Heaven Dew City. And gushed, tugging at Zirui to look around. Fox Consort's attention was riveted by snack stalls and the sight of giant sea fish sizzling on grills. Aru's eyes searched for shops selling spirit tools and special materials. Yuqing smiled and let them explore. He went to a city bank to exchange a large amount of gold, then booked an entire floor of sea view suites in the most comfortable hotel he could find. "We'll stay here for a while," he told the women as he handed out the room keys. "Rest, or wander the city and buy what you like. I'm going to the port to ask about sea spirit beasts." "Husband, go on ahead. We'll be fine," Duanshin said, already impatient to begin her city explorations. After a few safety reminders, Yuqing left the hotel alone and headed toward the bustling harbor to begin his inquiries into the deadly, valuable world of the sea's spirit beasts. Chapter 76, Gathering Information. The harbor district of Vast Sea City was always a clamor of noise and motion. A salty breeze, tinged with fish and sweat and the tang of goods, blew over the piers. Massive wooden and ironclad ships lay packed along the docks, their thick mooring ropes wrapped around bollards like sleeping serpents. Dark-skinned, muscled sailors shouted rhythmic commands while hauling crates. Vendors hawked seafood snacks, cheap liquor, and crude rigging from cramped stalls. Yuqing walked through the bustle with an easy gait, but his mind was anything but idle. His mental force stretched out like an invisible web, picking up fragments of talk and gossip. Sailors loved to tell sea stories, half-truths wrapped in bravado. "Old Jack, did you hear? The Sea Dog took the eastern run last week and nearly didn't come back, near the Demon Whale Sea. That place hasn't been quiet." A bearded man bellowed after downing a swig of ale. "Demon Whale Sea? Nonsense," scoffed an older sailor with a missing front tooth. "I've sailed 20 years and never seen any demon whales there. It's just a scare story for green hands." Yuqing ignored that kind of idle rumor. He was looking for something specific, the evil orca pack. Ordinary merchant crews rarely knew anything reliable about the movements of such apex sea predators. Then a cluster of younger sailors a short distance away caught his attention. Their clothes were cleaner and their posture tidier. They looked like senior crew on a large merchant ship. One of them, in his early 20s, still wore traces of fear on his face. "Really, this time we went to Devil Island on a supply run, and on the way back, maybe 100 miles out, we nearly didn't make it," he told his companions in a trembling voice. "Devil Island?" The others fell silent, faces tightening with awe and dread at the name. "We came across a pack of whale-type spirit beasts, like nothing I've ever seen. There were so many of them, each one as big as a small mountain. Their skin was black and shiny, like iron. Their heads were huge and their mouths were full of knife-like teeth. They just circled our ship, staring at us, so cold." He rubbed his arms as if the chill were still there. "My sea god, I thought we were done for. Strangely, though, they only circled a few times, like they were watching us, then they dove and left." "Holy, didn't they attack?" one of the others gasped. "No. Weirdly, they didn't. We were lucky. Even a titled Douluo on Devil Island was alerted." A sharp light flashed in Yuqing's eyes. 100 miles off Sea God Island, Devil Island, a massive pack of whale-like creatures, black, metallic skin, huge heads, blade teeth, matched perfectly with the evil orcas he was tracking. He walked over calmly and addressed the young sailor. "Brother, excuse me, about those whale-type spirit beasts, could you describe them in more detail? I'm very interested." The sailor glanced up, surprised by Yuqing's refined clothing and composed bearing. "Why are you asking?" Yuqing gave a gentle, harmless smile. "I'm a traveling scholar. I study uncommon creatures, especially sea spirit beasts. They differ so much from land beasts. I'm just curious." That sounded innocuous enough. The young sailor relaxed and tried to recall the sight. "I was terrified, so I couldn't see everything. They were huge, at least 20 meters long. Their bodies were a gray-black that caught the sun, like polished metal. Their heads were huge, terrifyingly so, and I'm sure their mouths could swallow a small boat. That's about all I saw." Yu Qing's certainty grew. "They didn't attack your vessel?" "No. We were lucky. They just circled, like they were patrolling or observing, then they left." "Thank you. That's very valuable." Yu Qing cupped his hands politely. The sailor's curiosity flared. "You're a scholar. Why risk asking about such dangerous beasts? The rarer and more powerful a spirit beast, the greater its research value," Yu Qing said. "From your description, that sounds like a highly social, powerful sea spirit beast. Worth documenting." They chatted a few minutes more. Yu Qing gently probed about the ship's route and the nature of their trade with Sea God Island. The sailor was understandably tight-lipped, saying only that they made regular supply runs for some of the island's peculiar residents. After parting, Yu Qing talked briefly to a few seasoned captains and old sailors, piecing together fragments of information. The picture that emerged was clear enough. The core territory of the massive evil orca pack lay in a specific sea area on the outskirts of Sea God Island. Sea God Island. Yu Qing frowned. This complicated things. The island was notoriously closed off and hostile to mainland spirit masters. The crushing defeat the Spirit Hall suffered there 10 years ago had left deep scars and mutual hatred. "If I want to get near the evil orcas, I'll have to approach the waters around Sea God Island," he thought as he headed back to his hotel. The sun had gone down by the time he arrived, painting the sky and sea a blaze of gold and red. No sooner had he opened the suite door than 2 scents of perfume drifted toward him. Duanxin and Aru were waiting, giggling as they each took an arm and pulled him toward the spacious bathroom before he could say a word. "Husband, you must be tired after running around all day. Come take a hot bath and relax," Duanxin cooed with innocent charm. "We've already prepared it and added calming incense for your muscles," Aru added, playful mischief in her pink eyes. Yu Qing recognized their intentions immediately. Sea voyage ahead, months apart. They wanted to make the most of the time. He smiled inwardly and let them drag him into the steaming room. Laughter, splashing, and intimate murmurs echoed from the bathroom for a long time. When he finally emerged, refreshed, he carried 2 limp, blushing women to the soft bed. Zirui and Fox Consort, waiting outside, slipped in shyly. It had been a hearty session of special cultivation. Aru, breathy and flushed, turned to him with a lingering husk in her voice. "A Qing, any progress on the evil orca information?" Palming their warm bodies, Yu Qing answered softly, It's basically confirmed. Their territory is in the waters around Sea God Island." Aru's brows drew together. "Sea God Island? That place is God's domain?" "Yes," he said, then sighed. "They've been very xenophobic since that war. I can't just go there openly." "Are they unfriendly to mainland spirit masters?" Aru asked. "More than unfriendly," Yu Qing explained as he lay back, recounting the history. 10 years ago, the Spirit Hall's head, Qian Shunji, led an expedition to seize Sea God Island. It ended in a crushing defeat. 2 titled Douluos lost, and countless spirit saints and spirit Douluos fell. Since then, the island has held a deep hatred for mainland spirit masters, especially anyone connected with the Spirit Hall. They're extremely guarded. Ziru, I remember that. It shook the whole spirit world. The Spirit Hall still bears the grudge. Duanxin added, "I think our teacher had some part in planning that war. He criticized some of the Supreme Pontiff's methods afterward." Zirui looked at Yu Qing with concern. "If Sea God Island is so hostile, how are we going to get there? Storm in by force?" Yu Qing shook his head. "That would be foolish. It would create trouble we don't need. The safer plan is to quietly join a merchant ship that does regular trade with Sea God Island. I'll sail with them and, once we're near the waters where the orcas appear, find a chance to slip off and search alone." It was the most sensible approach. The open sea was vast. Without precise nautical guidance, blindly searching with only mental force was like finding a needle in a field. Riding with a crew that knew the route was the most efficient way to reach the right area. Aru pressed against him, sliding his hand possessively over her chest and then, with a pout from Fox Consort, guiding it to her own ample bosom. "How long will you be gone?" she asked, voice soft and vulnerable. Qing did a quick calculation in his head. If everything goes smoothly, at least 2 months. If there are complications or it takes longer to find and hunt them, maybe up to half a year. All 4 women showed the same obvious reluctance. Aru laid his hand on her heart and purred. "Stay in Vast Sea City for a few more days before you leave, okay? Let us cultivate a few more times so you're fully stocked up." Her eyes were irresistible. Even the usually reserved Fox Consort looked hopeful. Qing could only laugh and tease Aru, scratching the bridge of her nose. "You're obsessed with yin-yang harmonization. No wonder you're called the soft-boned demon rabbit. Your charm is practically built in." Aru preened and rubbed against him, satisfied. Qing gave in. "All right, tomorrow I'll find out when that young sailor's ship leaves for Devil Island. I'll stay in Vast Sea City until then and devote myself fully to cultivation. Happy?" "Yay!" the women cheered. The next morning, Qing returned to the harbor and found the young sailor without trouble. After some light pleasantries, he asked casually, "Brother, when does your ship next sail to Devil Island?" The sailor thought for a second. "Our trade runs are fixed, roughly 1 round trip every 3 months. We just got back, so the next departure's at least 3 months from now." 3 months. Sufficient time. Qing pressed on. "If I wanted to hitch a ride near the waters off Devil Island, would that be possible?" The sailor's eyes widened. "You want to go near that place? Why? It's no place for sightseeing, dangerous as hell." Qing put on the earnest scholar's face he'd rehearsed. "I'm studying that peculiar whale-type spirit beast you mentioned. I want to observe and document it firsthand. It's important for my research." The sailor hesitated. "It's not up to me. The captain decides. If he won't allow it, nobody can." Qing produced a gold coin from a spirit tool and slipped it into the young sailor's hand. "If you introduce me so I can speak with the captain, this is for your trouble. Buy a few drinks." At the coin's weight and cold touch, the sailor's expression changed. His eyes brightened and his tone warmed. "That's easy. You look like a decent, learned man. Our captain's easy to talk to if you show some sincerity and, a bit of generosity." He rubbed his fingers suggestively. Qing smiled and patted his shoulder. "Money won't be an issue. I'll compensate whoever assists." "Leave it to me," the sailor said, thumping his chest. "I'll talk to the captain right away. How should I tell you when there's news?" Qing gave him the hotel name and a few more small instructions, then left the noisy docks. He walked back with a pleasant curve to his lips. 3 months, plenty of time to properly soothe his 4 impatient Tao companions. One afternoon, 3 days later, Qing was on the hotel terrace, watching the sea glitter in the sunlight and breathing the salty breeze, when there was a gentle knock at the door. He opened it to find a waiter standing there respectfully. "Sir, someone is here to see you." Qing nodded. "Send them in." Soon the young sailor from before stood in the doorway. Beside him was a tall, broad-shouldered man, his skin darkened and polished by wind and sun, a full beard framing eyes as sharp as an eagle's. He wore a captain's uniform, slightly worn but neat, and carried the steady, fierce air of someone who had long commanded and battled the sea. "Mr. Yu, this is Captain Jack of the merchant ship Storm," the sailor said quickly. Captain Jack sized Qing up, lingering on his refined bearing and clean clothes. He looked nothing like an ordinary seaman. His voice was loud and blunt. "You're the one who wants to go near Devil Island to look for whales?" Qing smiled faintly and stepped aside. "Captain Jack, I've heard a lot about you. Please come in. Let's talk." They sat in the sitting room, and Captain Jack wasted no time. "My crew told me about your plan. The waters around Devil Island aren't a sightseeing spot. They're dangerous. Ordinary folk avoid them. You're willing to pay to get close?" Qing had his story prepared. His expression carried the slight fanaticism and stubbornness of a scholar. "To be honest, I am a scholar of spirit beast ecology. I study populations of powerful and rare sea spirit beasts, especially cetacean spirit beasts that are highly social. From what your crew described, there could be a very valuable observation opportunity out there. I'm prepared to take the risk and pay a suitable reward." Captain Jack stroked his stubble and considered it. "The danger isn't small," he said. My ship has rules. Once you're on board, you follow my orders. Especially near Devil Island, you must not act on your own, and you mustn't provoke anyone on the island. If something happens, I can't protect you." "Understood," Qing nodded. "I only need a way to reach those waters for long-distance observation and recording. I'll follow your arrangements." They discussed details for a while longer. In the end, Qing secured a place on the crew for 20 gold coins, a fare far above an ordinary ticket, but he didn't care. Captain Jack pocketed the heavy coins and his expression softened. He warned solemnly, "I've taken the money, but remember the rules. Once we arrive, you can look, but don't make trouble. If you do, forget research. You might not live through it." Qing made a reassuring gesture. "I value my life." "Good. We set sail in 90 days. If you get bored in the meantime, you can rent a small boat and play nearshore, but don't go too far." Captain Jack stood, gave final instructions, and left with the young sailor. After seeing them off, Qing returned to his suite. The four women, Duanshin, Zirui, Aru, and Fox Consort, were sitting cross-legged on the carpet, spirit power swirling around them as they refined and absorbed the massive yin-yang power from their recent special cultivation. He didn't disturb them. He sat quietly and watched their focused, lovely profiles, feeling peaceful. When they finished refining, Qing smiled. "It's boring to stay in the city all day. Today I'm taking you to the seaside. Beach coming." "Beach coming?" Duanshin blinked, curious. "You'll see," Qing said mysteriously. He led them to a bay outside the city with jagged rocks and a gentle stretch of sand. The tide was out, leaving gifts from the ocean, beautiful shells, crabs scuttling about, sea snails tucked into crevices, and a few stranded small fish and shrimp. The four women were delighted, as if stolen back to childhood, laughing, shouting, helping one another as they chased and searched among sand and rocks. Each pretty shell or caught crab brought them long-lived joy. Their bell-like laughter mingled with the waves and made a warm scene. Qing couldn't help smiling. He occasionally stepped in, snatching up a few large mud crabs or mantis shrimp that tried to escape, earning cheers. At sunset, the sea glowed gold red. Qing gathered everyone's finds, found a sheltered spot, built a small fire, and displayed his cooking skills. Crabs were steamed, sea snails blanched, mantis shrimp seasoned simply and grilled, fish cooked over the flames, and oysters made into a savory porridge. They ate a fresh and sumptuous seafood feast by the fire, the sea breeze in their faces, and returned to the hotel satisfied. After that, Qing didn't spend his time in non-stop special cultivation, as Aru had expected. The coastline around Vast Sea City was uniquely enchanting, and he wanted the four women to see more. They used the city as a base and set out by boat to visit scattered islands, strange rocks, and caves. They walked moonlit beaches, listened to the tides, and visited fishing villages and coastal towns to taste authentic seafood snacks. Their laughter traced hundreds of miles of coastline. Occasionally, Qing took them to spirit tool shops and old goods markets in Vast Sea City to scavenge. His eye of luck was unusually sensitive. It allowed him to pull real treasures from piles of seeming junk. In a month, he found 6 pieces of 10,000-year-old whale resin with internal energy and excellent quality at ridiculously low prices. The four women were amazed. Those whale resins were invaluable for strengthening the body and increasing the limit on spirit ring absorption, enriching the yin-yang sect's foundation. Time flew. In what seemed like a blink, 3 months of leisure had passed. They had explored nearly every spot around Vast Sea City. Even with the freshest seafood, eating it without pause for 3 months grew tiresome. Duanshin, Zirui, Aru, and even Fox Consort had begun to lose interest in more fish dinners. If not for the yin-yang conjunction every 5 days and the powerful special cultivation every 10 days, the four might have left earlier to return to the ice and fire yin-yang well. The results of those 3 months, however, were tangible. Duanshin's and Zirui's spirit power had stabilized at the peak of level 69, only 1 step from the spirit saint realm. If Qing chose, he could help them break through past level 70. Under the steady nourishment of dual cultivation energy and yin-yang power, Aru's 6th soul ring aged to 50,000 years, greatly increasing its strength. The biggest gain was Fox Consort. Through her yin-yang conjunction with Qing, who was a super Douluo, She received massive spirit power feedback and yin-yang power. Her spirit power surged to the level 60 bottleneck, the crucial division for a transformed spirit beast. That meant she had entered maturity. Once she condensed a sixth soul ring, her unique aura as a 100,000-year spirit beast would be masked and transformed. Barring a top-tier expert who deliberately probed her origin aura, ordinary titled Douluo would have a hard time recognizing her true identity. Her safety was much improved. Even Qing made progress. Though every level past a titled Douluo required an ocean of spirit power, his total spirit power increased fractionally, about 1,000th toward level 97. More importantly, his fifth spirit ring stabilized at the level of 100,000 years, and he had begun using yin-yang power to increase the age of his fourth ring. At last, the day of parting arrived. The night before he left, after an intense special cultivation, Qing held them close. Duanxin lay in his arms, Zirui leaned against his back, and Aru and Fox Consort snuggled on either side. Qing lazily opened his eyes, feeling the warmth around him, and asked softly, "I set sail tomorrow. Do you want to stay in Vast Sea City to play, or go back to the Ice and Fire Yin-Yang Well?" Zirui spoke first, voice soft. "Let's go back. We've been out so long. I miss the children." Her tone was full of maternal longing. Duanxin nodded. "Yes, it's been almost 5 months since I saw Xiaolong and Xiao Tan. If we don't go back, they might not even recognize me." Her voice held a trace of guilt and yearning. Aru smiled and shrugged. "I should check on Xiao Wu too. I haven't kept an eye on her. She's probably running wild in the Ice and Fire Yin-Yang Well." Fox Consort bit her lip and said quietly, "Qing, I'll go back with them. I also need a quiet place to prepare for condensing my sixth soul ring." Hearing their plans, Qing felt relieved. He could go hunt at sea with more peace of mind. "All right, on the way back, stay safe." He paused and then addressed Duanxin and Zirui specifically. "Senior, Rui, don't rush into getting your seventh spirit ring. Wait until I return from the sea. I'll personally act as your protector and find the most suitable rings." "Yes, husband. Don't worry. We'll follow your plan," Zirui replied sweetly. Duanxin hugged his arm and teased, "Then you must come back quickly. Otherwise you'll miss the first time the children call you daddy, and you won't even hear it." They spent the night in each other's arms, savoring the last warmth before parting. There was no intense cultivation that night, only quiet companionship and reluctance to leave. The next morning, Qing personally saw them out of Vast Sea City, watching their figures disappear down the inland road. Only then did he hurry toward the port. At the appointed pier, the merchant ship Storm was ready. Captain Jack nodded in satisfaction when he saw Qing and gestured to the young sailor, who handed him a set of semi-worn sailor's clothes that smelled of sea salt and sweat. "Sir, ship's rule, change into this." Qing didn't mind and changed. The coarse linen was simple but let him blend in with the crew, losing some of his scholar's airs and taking on the look of an adventurer about to embark on a long voyage. Once on board, he didn't put on airs. Seeing the crew still finishing final cargo checks, he stepped forward to help, tying ropes and carrying lighter loads. His strength was well beyond ordinary, and his movements were steady and efficient. Some old sailors glanced at him with surprise and approval. This refined-looking scholar clearly wasn't a useless pretty boy. By noon, the last supplies were loaded. Captain Jack checked the manifest one final time, then strode to the bow. He inhaled the salty air, and his voice boomed across the ship. "Everyone to your positions. Storm, set sail." Target, Devil Island. The horn blasted, thick ropes were cast off, and the great sails filled with wind. The wooden merchantman creaked as it slid out of the busy harbor and into the open blue, vast, mysterious, and dangerous, plowing into the waves. Qing stood at the rail, watching Vast Sea City grow smaller, then turned his gaze to the endless ocean ahead. His eyes flashed with eager anticipation and a sharp light. "Evil orcas, here I come." 78. Poseidon Island. The massive wooden hull of the Storm slowly pulled away from the bustling port of Vast Sea City. The sea breeze grew stronger, filling the tall canvas sails with a snapping roar. The ship's speed increased as it cut through the deep blue water, leaving a long white froth in its wake. Looking back, Vast Sea City shrank into the distance, a black speck on the horizon that blurred until it disappeared entirely. Yu Qing stood alone on the bow, staring out where sea met sky. Only the occasional seabird or a school of leaping fish broke the monotony of the vast, awe-inspiring blue. Days at sea were long and wearying, and before long the crew had grown used to the seemingly refined, unusually relaxed, and incredibly knowledgeable scholar. During his free hours, sailors would cluster around him with questions about spirit beasts. "Mr. Yu, how many years do you think that silver-backed flying fish was?" "Mr. Yu, I heard that land spirit beasts are different from sea ones, which are stronger." "Mr. Yu, my son's spirit is a conch. What kind of spirit ring would suit him best?" Yu Qing always answered patiently. Whether estimating a spirit beast's age, explaining the strengths and weaknesses of different beasts, or advising on spirit compatibility and ring selection, he could explain everything clearly and logically. His depth of knowledge and clear thinking won the genuine admiration of men who spent their lives at sea with little formal education. Even Captain Jack would sometimes wander over with his wine flagon to consult Yu Qing on questions that had bugged him about spirit cultivation. Yu Qing's incisive, practical advice made the spirit emperor-level captain feel he'd learned something valuable, and the captain came to regard him with real respect. To the rough crew, Yu Qing was a proper scholar, pure, respectable, and a welcome change from the usual rough seafaring company. But life on a voyage was far less romantic than it sounded. Seeing the same horizon every day, hearing the same roll and slap of waves, and performing the same chores bred a boredom that could drive a weaker mind to madness. The crew's entertainment was simple: boasting, gossip, and low-stakes dice games to stir dulled nerves. Captain Jack's amusements were more varied. He drank alone in his quarters some nights, and more often invited a few of the more attractive female crew members for other, more primal diversions. The cabin's poor soundproofing meant occasional suggestive noises drifted out. The crew took it in stride. Yu Qing found it hard to judge. A few times, Captain Jack, several sheets to the wind, invited him to join in and promised top-tier company. Yu Qing politely declined every time. Once, after a bout of drinking, the captain slung an arm around his shoulder and slurred, "Brother, you can't hold it in forever. You're a man. This is normal. If you don't like the common girls, I got some real top-tier ones below deck. Give it a try." Yu Qing kept his composure, adopting the solemn air of a scholar as he refused. "Captain Jack, I appreciate the offer, but as a researcher I must stay clear-headed. Worldly desires would only distract me from my work." The captain thumped his shoulder and laughed. "You're a kid and act like an old pedant. Fine, if you won't come, I'll enjoy myself." He staggered away, and muffled giggles soon drifted from his cabin. Yu Qing sighed with relief and returned to his small assigned bunk. He rubbed his forehead and muttered, "Why so enthusiastic? I almost got swayed. Ever since I got the Tao companion system and the Yin Extreme Reverse Yang art, my resistance is worse than ever." The faces and figures of his 4 Tao companions rose involuntarily in his mind. Compared to them, the ship's top-tier beauties held no interest for him. In the days that followed, Yu Qing immersed himself further in his research. He spent long hours on deck cataloging the sea spirit beasts that leapt or surfaced, species, size, behavior, age, diligently recording everything in his notebook. His focused, studious manner cemented the crew's impression of him as a fanatical scholar. Time slipped by quietly. 2 months passed before they realized it. The sea had not been kind. They endured 2 violent storms that smashed waves across the deck like mountains, snapping rigging and pitching the ship between troughs and crests as if it might break apart. The crew fought the elements to stabilize the storm. Afterwards, the hull and masts bore scars and cracks, but there were no fatalities. They also faced attacks from powerful sea spirit beasts. A 10,000-year deep-sea giant squid, bigger than a small hill, tried to wrap its tentacles around the hull. A pack of bloodthirsty mad sharks rammed the ship's underside by night. Luckily, most of the crew were sea spirit masters, mostly spirit elders and spirit ancestors, and thanks to their experience, teamwork, and some defensive spirit gear, they drove off the attackers, though the hull and protective layers took heavy damage. Yu Qing behaved like a nervous scholar during these battles, clinging to anything fixed, but couldn't help observing and recording every detail. One calm night, Yu Qing sat alone on the stern, watching the ink-blue sea and the brilliant galaxy. Captain Jack came up with a flagon and sat beside him, offering it. Yu Qing declined. The captain took a swig, then grew serious. Tomorrow, we enter the Devil Island Sea area. Yu Qing felt a twitch of interest, but kept his expression mild. The Devil Island Sea area? The dangerous waters you mentioned? Yeah, Captain Jack nodded. Besides the mysterious whale pods we might have seen before, there's one sea spirit beast you must never provoke. What is it? Yu Qing asked, though he already suspected the answer. Devil spirit great white sharks. The captain lowered his voice. They're one reason they call it Devil Island. They're powerful, ferocious, and numerous throughout that area. Usually, they don't attack routine merchant ships like ours, but if provoked or if they sense serious hostility, they'll go berserk. If that happens, the ship will be wrecked and everyone's done for. Whatever you do, don't approach, provoke, or attack them. Keep as far away as you can. Yu Qing nodded solemnly. Understood, Captain. I'm only here to observe and record. I won't provoke anything, especially those sharks. Good, Captain Jack said, clapping his shoulder. He drank again and left. The next day, they crossed into the Devil Island waters, and Yu Qing immediately sensed the difference. The air seemed charged, the sea darker. Within the range of his mental perception, sea spirit beasts were far stronger, both in number and in spirit power, than in the outer seas. He registered the auras of 10,000-year creatures several times. The crew, weary from months at sea, suddenly stiffened with vigilance, their faces tight with tension. 2 days later, Yu Qing finally saw the devil spirit, great white sharks Captain Jack had warned him about. A colossus more than 8 meters long cruised beneath the surface about 100 meters from the storm. Its streamlined body was cold gray-white, dark demonic patterns streaking its back. Even with its mouth closed, rows of interlocking teeth like guillotine blades were visible. When it surfaced, it gave the ship a cold, disdainful sweep with its gaze, an inspection as if the crew were no more than carrion. The pressure of its presence was bone-chilling. Yu Qing immediately began to record. Physical characteristics, estimated age, roughly 30,000 years, cruising behavior, attitude toward the ship, watchful but not hostile. With a few quick strokes, he sketched the predator in vivid detail. As Captain Jack had predicted, the sharks did not attack. They would pass under the hull or circle once, apparently checking the ship's identity. Yu Qing felt subtle probing across the vessel, as if they were scanning for powerful land spirit masters. If they found none, they drifted off to continue their patrol. Under their watch, the storm sailed half a month more. One morning, through mist, a huge island rose from the horizon like a slumbering behemoth. It bristled with dense vegetation and rolling peaks, and at its center soared an impossibly tall summit that seemed to link sea and sky. The whole island was wrapped in a faint, majestic energy haze. Sea God Island, finally it was in sight. Yu Qing, however, did not plan to set foot on the island. He found Captain Jack overseeing docking preparations. "Captain Jack, I'm getting off," he said calmly. The captain blinked in disbelief. "Getting off? Now? Yu Qing, what are you talking about? We're about to reach Devil Island. Are you jumping ship?" A stubborn, disappointed look, typical of a researcher, crossed Yu Qing's face. "All this way, and I still haven't encountered that mysterious whale-type spirit beast. I can't go back like this." Captain Jack rubbed his temples. "We'll unload cargo and rest for half a month. The return route might be different. We could run into it then. Just wait." Yu Qing shook his head. "I have a feeling. This area near Devil Island is probably frequently patrolled or cleared by the island's powerhouses, those titled Douluo you mentioned. Strong sea beast groups might have been driven off. The chance of encountering them on the return trip will be slim. I have to try now, further out." "That's too dangerous," Captain Jack said sharply. "The deep sea has too many variables." Yu Qing looked him straight in the eye. "Captain Jack, rest assured, if I'm willing to ask for this, I have ways to stay safe. I won't gamble with my life." Captain Jack watched him long, then sighed. "Fine. If you're determined, I won't stop you. Do you want us to wait nearby on the return?" Yu Qing thought a moment and shook his head. "We'll see. If you don't find me on the way back, or if I don't send the signal, don't wait. Maybe I'll have found my target and need more time, or maybe I'll have left by another route." He left himself options. "All right," Captain Jack said heavily. He led Yu Qing to a quiet, out-of-the-way spot on the side deck, patted his shoulder, and lowered his voice. "Take care. I hope you come back safe." "Thank you, Captain Jack. I wish you a smooth return," Yu Qing said with a grateful smile. He breathed deep, looked down at the dark water, and leapt without hesitation. With a splash, he vanished beneath the sea. Captain Jack stood by the rail until the surface smoothed, shook his head, and muttered, "Stubborn, reckless scholar, may the sea god protect you." Then he turned away to continue the docking work. Yu Qing dove deep, dropping dozens of meters to avoid the ship's sight and any prying eyes. Light faded, pressure rose, and odd-shaped fish drifted past. He summoned the life golden leaf martial soul. 9 spirit rings, beyond common logic, materialized and pulsed around him, their spirit power throbbing but tightly restrained. His gaze fixated on the 100,000-year 8th spirit ring. 8th spirit ability, formless nirvana glazed leaf. He whispered the name, and the purple ring flared. A strange leaf the size of a palm, thin as a cicada wing, with a dreamlike glazed sheen, and countless tiny purple stars flowing within, detached from the martial soul and floated before him. It exuded an ethereal, almost void-like aura. Yu Qing swallowed the formless nirvana glazed leaf. Cool, mysterious energy surged through him. His body began to change. Skin, muscle, bone, all took on the translucent glazed texture, fading toward near-complete transparency. It wasn't mere visual concealment. His spirit fluctuations, life aura, and even his sense of presence diminished rapidly, becoming nearly undetectable. He melded into the seawater, almost becoming part of the ocean itself, impossible to lock onto by ordinary perception. This was the life-saving power of the 8th spirit ring. Its effect, placing the user into a formless state that conceals aura and physical form, with duration tied to spirit power consumption. It was a supreme skill for stealth, escape, and evading combat. In absolute concealment, Yu Qing set his direction and slipped silently toward the deeper, more unknown waters beyond Sea God Island. His mental force extended like invisible tendrils to probe the surroundings, but in the deep sea, his perception range was sharply limited and draining. Like a single drop merging with the ocean, he swam resolutely into the deadly domains where terrifying predatory tribes lurked. 79. Demonic orca horde and scheme. The sea stretched out without end. Yu Qing drifted alone, conducting a long, tedious search through the deep blue unknown. He had narrowed the general area where the evil orcapod was active, but pinpointing a massive, constantly moving group in such an immense, topographically complex ocean was far harder than tracking a single spirit beast on land. This would not be solved in a day. Like a tireless shadow, he glided through the dark water. The formless nirvana glazed leaf suppressed his aura to the absolute minimum, letting him avoid the notice of innumerable powerful sea spirit beasts and reduce needless trouble. His mental force spread out like an exacting radar, probing the surrounding seawater inch by inch for any spirit power fluctuation or physical signature that might belong to the evil orcas. In the deep ocean, however, mental force detection was heavily hindered. Range shrank, consumption skyrocketed. Periodically, he had to find a relatively safe reef, surface, sit, and fully run the star meditation method to restore drained mental force and spirit power. Pressure pressed on him from all sides. The deeper he went, the more crushing it felt, as if the sea itself sought to squeeze the life out of him. He continuously relied on his 6th soul skill, the unbreakable golden lotus leaf, to hold a protective shield against it. Without his yin-yang complementary dual soul cores, whose recovery speed far outpaced others his rank and whose foundation was profound, he would never have dared such prolonged, high-intensity searching at spirit power level 97. Even so, the work was fraught with hardships and danger. The ocean's depth and the age and ferocity of its spirit beasts outmatched anything on land. In just a few days, Yu Qing had run into 7 sea spirit beasts older than 50,000 years. Once he startled an 80,000-year abyssal giant octopus hiding beneath a 1,000-meter trench. Its mountain-sized mass, countless sucker-lined tentacles, and cold, bloodthirsty compound eyes had pressed down on him like doom. Only the formless nirvana glazed leaf stealth and his superior speed let him escape without a needless fight. Search, recover, encounter, evade, day after day. He had been at it for half a month. The area he'd combed covered several hundred kilometers. He had even detected a 100,000-year level aura at the edge of his scans once and had to skirt around it. Still, the evil orcapod remained like a needle in a haystack. No sign, no trace. Any ordinary person would have given up, but Yu Qing's resolve was tempered like steel. He knew patience mattered more with great prey. The triumph after a long, grueling hunt far outweighed the temptation to return empty-handed. That patience finally paid off, after nearly 2 months. He was hidden within a stand of massive, colorful deep-sea coral, recharging his mental force, when an extremely violent, chaotic, and malignant spirit power fluctuation erupted from the southwest. Yu Qing's eyes snapped open. A sharp light burst from his pupils. This should be the spirit signature only evil orcas have. And they're hunting. He drew in his aura and became a ghost in the water, gliding toward the disturbance. Within his mental perception, a bloody tableau unfolded. 6 massive, grayish-black evil orcas with hideous heads were relentlessly besieging a giant turtle of roughly 50,000 years. Larger than they were, but clearly overmatched. The orcas moved with precise, brutal coordination. Some struck at the turtle's head and limbs, while others circled to the flanks and rear, smashing the turtle's hardened dorsal shell with their immense tails like meteor hammers. Bang, bang, bang! Cracks echoed through the deep. The giant turtle cried out and tried to fight back, blasting high-pressure jets of water, but against 6 seamless, bloodthirsty attackers, its resistance was pitiful. Blood quickly stained the water, drawing smaller predators that only dared hover at the edge of the carnage. In 15 minutes, the giant owl dragon turtle was dead. The 6 orcas gave low, excited hums and began tearing into their prize. Yu Qing watched from the shadows like a cold spectator, noting every detail. Their attack patterns, coordination, power levels, and most importantly, the direction they went. When they finished and began cruising away, sated and patrolling as if marking territory, Yu Qing followed like a shadow clinging to bone. He kept a safe distance and pushed the formless nirvana glazed leaf to its limits so his presence leaked not a whit. These 6 were clearly just a hunting squad. They cruised aimlessly for over 100 miles. Yu Qing trailed them patiently. Half a day later, while crossing a section where the seabed suddenly dropped toward an abyss, the 6 turned together and dove toward the darker, deeper trench. Yu Qing's pulse quickened. He followed. They plunged. Pressure spiked and light vanished. The depth shot past 1,000 meters. Even with spirit power protection, Yu Qing felt the suffocating squeeze, as if invisible hands pressed his chest. Circulation of his spirit power slowed. But excitement burned in his chest. His mental scan detected countless powerful, homogeneous spirit power signatures pulsing in the darkness below. Another 100 meters down, his mental vision opened like a window. A horrific scene filled his mind. On a vast abyssal plain, dense black shapes the size of moving hills cruised slowly, over 300 of them. Each radiated a ferocious, heart-stopping aura. This was an evil orcapod on a scale beyond imagining. More than half were at the 10,000-year cultivation level. Their spirit power ran deep. Over 20 were huge, their power as deep as an abyss, clearly over 70,000 years. More than 10 exuded purple-black evil chi, the signatures of 80 or 90,000-year beasts. And at the center, far larger than any kin, hovered a demon-like giant, nearly 30 meters long, ashen, metallic dark gray, skin scarred by countless battles, jaws packed with cold, serrated teeth, and eyes huge, cold, brutal. The dark red pressure those eyes radiated felt like a domain enveloping the entire pod. The evil spirit Orca King. Found it. Finally. Yu Qing's heart leapt. After nearly 2 months of searching, the goal was before him. Immediately, caution replaced joy. This pod was not prey to confront head-on. It was a war fortress. If his presence were discovered, even as a level 97 super duo with twin spirits and many trump cards, he would be lucky to flee alive. He could be torn to pieces in an instant. I must use cunning, not brute force, he decided. His objective, take down the evil spirit Orca King and at least 10 high-level orcas of over 50,000 years to synthesize his third vicious beast spirit ring. Charging in was out of the question. Sneak attacks would be impossible against 11 scattered top-tier deep-sea beasts. Then he thought of 2 special items in his storage spirit tool. One was a small bottle of pink liquid, rosemary. a special incense bought from the system mall. Supposedly, a sufficient dose could plunge even a 100,000-year spirit beast into a coma for up to half an hour. The other was a triangular military bayonet, faintly green lit, coated with a lethal contact poison that would pierce defenses and kill when it drew blood. A problem emerged. Rosemary was a liquid incense effective in air or on land. In the high-pressure deep sea, it wouldn't disperse. How could he deliver the scent to deep-sea behemoths? After a moment's thought, he had a plan. He would return to the surface and prepare. Night had fallen. The sky was clear and star-swept. A silver crescent moon cast a cold path across the sea. Qing found an isolated reef and climbed onto it. He sat cross-legged, calmed his breath, and brought out bottles and jars, precious medicinal materials and reagents he'd collected over time. He ignited a cluster of silver star flames in his palms. The star flame he crafted by compressing star power, temperature controllable and ideal for refining medicines. Using rosemary as the main ingredient, he added dew flower, dreamgrass powder, calming stamens, and several special catalysts to enhance permeability and persistence. He tossed them into the star flame and precisely controlled the process. The ingredients melted, purified, and fused. The medicinal aroma spread, contained within a range by his spirit power. After an hour, the star flame died down. In his palm lay a pill the size of a longan, a strange pale pink, smooth as jade, a misty pink vapor coiling slowly within. A faint yet lethal sweet fragrance radiated from it. "It's done," he said. The potent rosemary pill. He hoped it would work. Caution demanded a test. He left a mental mark on the reef, then flashed away in search of a subject. He found a 10,000-year spined mad shark near the surface. Qing concealed himself and flicked his finger. The pale pink pill shot into the shark's open maw. It dissolved instantly, unleashing its medicinal power. The shark's feral glint dimmed before it could struggle. Confusion followed, and then unconsciousness. Its life aura remained strong, but its consciousness was gone, and it sank into the deep. "The effect is good," Qing said. He repeated the test on a 30,000-year giant mouth thunder eel, a 50,000-year ironclad dragon turtle, and an exceptionally powerful 70,000-year abyssal ghost head octopus. The results encouraged him. The 30,000-year beast fell into a sleep estimated at over 12 hours. The 50,000-year one lasted a few breaths before collapsing for around 8 hours. Even the 70,000-year octopus was felled. Its tentacles went limp in under half a minute, and it slept for about 3 hours. "What potent medicine," he murmured. Only one unknown remained. How would the pill affect a 100,000-year spirit beast like the Orca King, and for how long? If the effect were weak or short, Plan B would be necessary. Plan B was simple and direct. Choose a position away from the pod's core and suddenly release his life domain. Use the vast, pure power of life as bait. No predator, especially one like the Orca King, could easily resist such pure life origin. It would likely break off to investigate or even try to devour Qing himself. Then it would be a one-on-one hunt, and he would stand a chance. He hoped the rosemary pill would work. Satisfied with his preparations, he returned to the marked reef, steadied his breathing, and sharpened his focus. The hunt began. He dove again into the cold, dark deep and glided toward the terrifying nest 1,500 meters below. 80. Deep sea hunt and Poseidon's arrival. Diving again into that gloomy, icy deep sea 1,000 meters down, Qing swallowed another formless nirvana-glazed leaf without hesitation. Within moments, his figure, aura, spirit power fluctuations, even his very sense of presence, compressed to near nothing. He became a formless, traceless phantom in the deep, perfectly merged with the eternal darkness. Like the coldest hunter, his gaze locked on a lone 10,000-year evil orca lazily patrolling the edge of the pod. He closed in silently and flicked his fingertip. A pale pink rosemary pill, carrying a strange sweet scent, sliced through the seawater and slipped soundlessly into the slightly opened giant mouth of the evil orca. The pill dissolved on contact and its medicinal power erupted. The massive body of the 10,000-year beast stiffened, its patrol halted, its fierce eyes blurred and went dull, its energy draining away. In 2 or 3 breaths, it lost consciousness, suspended in the water like a drained husk and sinking into a deep sleep. Excellent, Qing thought. He moved like a needlefish, the triangular bayonet in his hand. quenched with countless potent toxins and flashing a ghostly green, became a streak of death. He plunged it into the vulnerable eye, straight through to the brain. The blade carried an ice-fire composite toxin he had made from the spring water of the ice and fire yin-yang well and dozens of rare poisons, enough to fell a spirit Douluo. Still, the evil orca's life force was terrifyingly strong. Even with its brain pierced and the poison coursing through it, it took 5 full minutes for its life aura to dissipate. When it finally did, a deep black 10,000-year spirit ring condensed from its corpse. Qing swept his mental force and drew the ring into his system space. The whole operation was clean and silent. The other orcas noticed almost no abnormality and likely assumed the companion had simply fallen into a deep sleep. He smiled inwardly. Tang San's method from the original work certainly had merit. Without pausing, his gaze locked on the next target, a 60,000-year evil orca with even stronger fluctuations and a larger body. He repeated the process with ruthless efficiency. Approach, launch the rosemary pill, wait for unconsciousness, fatal strike with the bayonet, collect the spirit ring, hide and retreat. One after another, he harvested high-value targets, solitary beasts or those on the pod's periphery over 50,000 years old. Soon, 4 powerful evil orcas between 60 and 70,000 years old floated in the dark, motionless as if in sweet dream. Tiny holes in their foreheads oozed black blood, the only sign of death. 4 more 10,000-year spirit rings materialized in his system space. Qing grew bolder. His aims shifted to the pod's core, 90,000-year evil orcas, elder-class guardians with senses comparable to human, titled Douluos. The rosemary pill's effect was weaker on them. They resisted longer, and their struggles were fiercer. But with precise timing and brutal strikes, Qing still prevailed. 3 90,000-year spirit rings, black as ink with faint edges of blood red, joined his collection. 10 spirit rings over 50,000 years. Enough, Qing said, excitement bubbling. 10 high-level evil orca spirit rings floated quietly in system space, each radiating powerful fluctuations. This haul was one of the trip's greatest gains. For a moment he wondered what kind of powerful, vicious beast spirit ring they could eventually synthesize, then suppressed the thought. He fixed his cold gaze on the center of the dark water, on the largest shadow entrenched like a deep-sea demon god, the 100,000-year evil spirit orca king. Final prey, final danger. Plan A. I hope it works. If not, Plan B, he breathed and adjusted his state. Like the most patient assassin, he crept closer. The suffocating pressure grew as he neared. The Orca King's evil, overbearing aura created an invisible domain that made the water viscous and heavy. Qing pushed the formless nirvana glazed leaf to its limit and slipped up to the diagonal upper side of the giant head like ink merging with water. The beast seemed semi-dormant, its great eyes half closed. He flicked a pale pink rosemary pill toward its twitching nostrils, hoping it would inhale the pill with a breath. At that moment, the half-closed eyes, like blood-colored lakes, snapped open. Rage, vigilance, and fierce light exploded from them. Roar! The Orca King's aura erupted like a 10,000-year volcano, far more concentrated, foul, and overwhelming. Dark red, evil energy dyed the surrounding sea. It had sensed danger at the last instant. The pill was shaken to powder and dispersed. Who dares? How dare you attack my kin? The king's roar was a physical sonic wave, thrashing the deep sea and sweeping the pod with its massive mental force. It immediately discovered the floating corpses of its fallen clanmates. Rage and killing intent filled it. Its head turned, and it searched the darkness, hunting the hidden killer. Qing's heart sank. Plan A had failed, yet his reflexes were instant. He shot upward like a startled needlefish, heading for the surface while activating Plan B. Life Golden Leaf, possess! Dazzling golden-green light flared, and the Life Golden Leaf martial soul possessed him. Even though the spirit rings couldn't be manifested while he remained in a formless state, the power of the 7th spirit ring began to trigger. 7th spirit ability, Martial Soul True Body. The Martial Soul True Body detonated a life domain centered on Qing, surging outward like a living tide for over 1,000 meters. In that dead, cold, killer-filled deep, this suddenly pure, intense life aura stood out like a lighthouse in the dark, instantly attracting attention. In the Orca King's blood-red eyes, fury instantly curdled into shock. greed, and burning desire. Such pure, massive life origin, it filled its simple mind with temptation. Devour it. If it consumed this power, it might survive its next heavenly tribulation. Its strength would skyrocket. It might even challenge the deep-sea demon whale king. Greed overrode killing intent. The king no longer searched for the tiny killer. Its caudal fin lashed, tearing the water, and it charged after the source of the life power, Qing, who was ascending at full speed. Qing's martial soul, true body, and life domain ate massive spirit power, but he didn't care. His yin-yang complementary dual soul cores spun, supplying him. Half an hour later, he burst through the surface like an arrow. Cold night air filled his lungs. He hovered, still wrapped in dense life radiance, and began recovering his consumed spirit power while scanning his surroundings and preparing for confrontation. 15 minutes later, the sea beneath him boiled. A 100-meter vortex formed. With a thunderous surge, the 100,000-year evil spirit Orca King flew through the vortex and broke the surface, suspending briefly in midair. Its blood-moon eyes locked on the tiny, tempting figure before it. Human. Its voice was thunder, filled with greed and violence. You think by leading me to the surface you can win? Obediently become my sustenance. Qing hovered, calm. There was no fear, only cold battle intent. We'll see who wins, he said under his breath, and the spirit power in his body flared. Star-burning battle method. Open. A dazzling purple-gold aura ignited from within. His spirit power shot up like a burning star, scorching the air. You're looking for death, the Orca King roared and unleashed a dark red destruction light beam, condensed from evil and destructive energy. Space warped where it traveled. Qing vanished with a blink, narrowly avoiding the strike, which smashed into the distant sea in a 100-meter-high explosion. Your speed isn't bad. How many times can you dodge? The Orca King snarled. Its tail, like a meteor hammer, swept with planet-tearing force, while a thick, dark red evil domain spread to erode Qing's life domain. Qing sped and maneuvered, but the Orca King was cunning. At critical moments, it drew seawater into shields and vortices that neutralized some of his attacks. It was a hard opponent. He couldn't drag it out. He needed to end this. Qing formed a mysterious seal, and the purple-gold aura converged on his hands. Star Luo hand, suppress! Starlight brightened as if a constellation had flared. A giant starlight hand condensed from countless dazzling purple stars, runes flowing over its surface with a will that could suppress worlds. It reached down and seized the Orca King. The king spat an even thicker destruction beam and summoned a wall of seawater, but the star hand ignored them, penetrating both and grasping the massive beast. Purple chains of order lit up and wrapped the Orca King, sealing and suppressing its violent spirit power. It thrashed and roared, unable to break free. Now! Qing leapt above its head. His right fist clenched as every ounce of his power, spirit power, blood vitality, star power, and the explosive fury of the star-burning battle method, condensed. 4 forms of star shattering, annihilation. He struck. The punch was silent but utterly destructive, penetrating the thick skull and sending hidden energy like a barrage of miniature bombs into the brain and core. The Orca King's body stiffened. Then, boom, a muted yet world-shaking explosion erupted from within. The mountain-like body ruptured from the inside. Flesh, bone, and organs scattered as a crimson firework of gore. In the king's eyes, the last stunned disbelief lingered before the light died. A bright red 100,000-year spirit ring, radiating overwhelming energy and pressure, exuded from the blasted corpse. A torso spirit bone shimmering with dark red light fell out as well. Qing clenched his teeth against the pounding blood vitality and heavy fatigue, then swept the spirit ring and the spirit bone into system space. Finally settled, he exhaled, relief and exhaustion mingling. He was about to leave when everything changed. An indescribable, majestic pressure descended from the sky without warning, vast as if fused with the ocean itself. Qing's body froze. His blood felt chilled as if the sea itself pressed on him from 10,000 fathoms. Lifting his head with effort, he saw a graceful, tall figure suspended in the night sky under the cold moonlight. She wore a magnificent red gown woven like a brilliant sunset. Sea blue hair cascaded to her waist, glossy in the moonlight. Her face was breathtakingly perfect, yet carried a divine majesty that looked down on all life. Most striking was the scepter she held, taller than she was, all gold with a massive blue gemstone set at the top, radiating holy sea-like fluctuations as if it embodied rule over the ocean. She stood quietly, but she was the center of the world itself. Her voice drifted over like the tide, cold and pleasant, but full of unquestionable authority and a faint killing intent. Land Spirit Master, since you dared to come to the sea area of my sea god island to hunt spirit beasts and disturb this holy ground, stay here forever. Yu Qing's pupils constricted, his face hardened. He recognized her, the spokesman of the sea god in the mortal world, the rank 99 peak Super Douluo, High Priestess of Sea God Island, Bosaishi.